Delete Everything by Riley Bowen. Chapter 13. As I ran into the house, following the screams, my mind raced to think of something, anything, that I might be able to use against him. We'd been chasing this monster so long, but it had never occurred to me that we would ever actually catch up to him, much less actually fight him. How do you fight a time-traveling vampire? The screams reverberated down the cobwebbed hallway, echoing in the empty rooms of the old house. Terrible acoustics, I thought for a moment. Maybe if we baffled... No, that was my old life. Now there was only the next moment, and the door down the hall. I pulled out the stake I'd carved from the cemetery tree back in Colorado, back when we thought we were still hunting cryptids. Vampires seemed so silly to me then. I almost yearned for the naive days Pat and I had spent hunting the Kajamar through the bayou with Boudreaux. Boudreaux, I said through gritted teeth. His blood is on your hands too, you son of a bitch. I reached the door. Flickering torchlight and the wet sound of fangs on flesh. Steeling myself, I kicked it in, rotted wood and molded, splintering everywhere. Put him down, I yelled, brandishing the stake. I know what you are. I know who you are. Patrick. Patrick looks up at me from Brian the mailman's limp body, blood dripping from his mouth. Oh, hey, you aren't going to believe it. He, was bitten by a snake. I was trying to suck out the poison. Can it, Batman? I know about Boudreaux and A-Bear. I know you were behind the Bruno's cheese fire and the Lobster Boy murders. Hey, man, no way. He begins to protest, but breaks into a wicked grin. Okay, you got me. It's like that episode of Scooby-Doo, except when you pull off the mask, it's me. Garfield, Patrick? Why Garfield? Because damn the stalwarts, that's why. Patrick paces around me, grinning, his eyes glowing red, blood dripping from his mouth, the torchlight glinting off his glistening fangs. What, are you going to bite me, huh? Partner? I spit venomously. Or are you going to cut my head off and frame me like you did with old Mrs. Johnson, huh? Patrick laughed, a hollow, demonic sound. For you? I'll dice you up, sprinkle you all over Kentucky, baby. He lunged, raking his claws at me. I sidestep and throw the handful of garlic salt I've been concealing into his eyes. Ah, he cries out, gripping his face. I forgot about the garlic salt. I didn't, I hiss. I drive the stake into his chest and push him back against the wall. He coughs up black blood, his skin wrinkling and blackening, his thousands of years beginning to show. I'm not gonna beg, he spits at me. I produce a flask of whiskey and take a swig. Men beg, I say as I splash the liquor on him. Pigs squeal. I toss the torch on him, the whiskey igniting in a great conflagration. I ran out as his otherworldly screams fill the air. The police fill the night with sirens and flashing lights. Red and blue muted by the light of the burning house. Dungeon Master Jay found me hiding out in the shadows of the trees down the block, watching the flames. So you did it, she said mutedly. I found those newspaper articles you were looking for. We finally got the proof we need to expose him. Should I send it to the authorities? No, I say, my eyes not leaving the fire. Delete it. Delete everything with Patrick Wall.
Yay! That was the longest intro ever.
That's so self-serving.
I did it on the fly.
Jesus.
Took about 15 minutes.
Do they say
was,
"son of a bitch" in kids?
Oh yeah, son of a bitch is fine.
That was a great. That was a great. Just.
This was more of a young adult, kind of a VC Andrews.
Okay,
I feel like everything that I missed being gone has been. I'm like now updated, refreshed.
You were gone?
Well,
Hey everybody, thank you for listening to Delete Everything podcast with myself, Patrick Wall, and with me is my co-host,
Riley Bowen.
and we have our guest. At long last, he can be here to defend himself from all of our slanderous bullshit.
Brian Velez.
Brian's here. Brian,
Guys, how you doing?
the
I
Brian
exist.
we always talk
I'm here.
about.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah, man. So
I drop purple when I die.
thanks for listening. If you like the show so far, whether it's this one, whether it's previous ones, probably haven't listened to enough of this one to know if you like it or not. But if you listen and you decide you do, please get on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on any platform that you're listening to that allows you to rate us, leave us a review. You don't have to write anything cool in there. Write who your favorite horror author was when you were a kid. or your favorite horror movie or whatever. Write
Or
something.
whatever.
Write
Yeah.
something. Say that I'm stupid. I don't care.
Just actually, if we could just get everybody to write Patrick stupid, that would be funny.
If I get 1,000
Everybody-
reviews that say Patrick is stupid, if they all come with
He
five
really
five
is
stars,
stupid.
He's that stupid.
if they all come
so
with 5
stupid.
stars, I will just, I don't know, do stupid stuff forever. I'll be like, I'll own it. It's just be
I don't
stupid
think
now.
that's gonna.
Oh wait,
I don't think you need
you-
motivation for that.
You've already owned it.
Thanks, guys. So for those of you who don't know, Delete Everything is sort of our little baby here that we cradle on a weekly basis and tell stories about deleted histories, forgotten histories, things that people knew once upon a time. Maybe they don't know stuff about it anymore. Maybe they know like a little scotch. They don't know enough. We just kind of try and deep dive and talk about the histories that people that are hidden in the corners, and we also do stupid jokes about boobs and butts.
If you guys just heard him say weekly bassist and pictured somebody playing the bass guitar,
Just once a week,
I
though.
just want you to know that
I
I'm
am
with
the
you.
weekly basis.
That happened to me as well. I also thought that.
Just once a week.
He's never mind.
So it's basically the episode of Scooby-Doo where
I already did the
you're going
Scooby-Doo
through
thing.
the
I did it.
the whole
I did it in
time.
the intro.
You're looking for the murderer,
no-
and at the end you take the mask off, and it's me, baby. Welcome to Delete Everything Podcasts. Jinkies.
I can't find my glasses.
So this week we're doing kids horror. We're keeping some of our spooky stuff going for October, and we're doing the kids horror genre, whether it be books, TV shows, movies.
I think with a little bit of an expansion into young adult too. You know, like cap it at college. If you're getting past high school, then we're not covering it. It's
Not still
useless.
reading R.L. Stein novels in college.
R.L. Stein he's written some like adult stuff.
I
But
wrote
like
my dissertation on R.L. Stein.
On Goosebumps. But just on every single YouTube.
it's funny, he's actually speaking
touched-
in our town at a college.
That's right, I
He's
forgot
speaking at
about that.
Flagler, yeah.
We should go.
I already took his master class.
I'm sorry.
It was not great. I'll
No.
say.
Did you pay money?
For the masterclass,
Did it cost you
so for my birthday, my wife bought me the masterclass program a couple of years ago, and it's like you take some cool online courses. Brought to you by Masterclass. I took some classes from like Martin Scorsese and David Mamet and shit, just like, and they call them classes, but they're really like a 16.
And then you said, let's mix it up with some R.L. Stein, baby.
No, I've watched a million of them. They're
Yeah,
like,
it's
you
like-
just speak from a place of authenticity.
Exactly,
You
it's
know, write about
16
what you know, and it's like, dude, shut the fuck up.
like
Tell me how to write a fucking screenplay.
yeah,
There's
it's
gonna
pretty
be
much
some
just,
like fucking academic rigor to writing a fucking 30-minute presentation and being like, oh, you know, write what you know and just go with the feelings.
it's all like that. Like
Dude,
Scorsese's,
eat
I
my
thought
balls.
was great. Like Scorsese's just like, yeah, you know, I always try and represent the first thing that I think of, and I think that's great. How do you work a camera?
Yeah, how do I? Where are my notes?
Where am I going to get
How-
funding? What is this?
How do I write this script so that it like plays out with my storyboards? You know, not.
But the R.L. Stein one that I really loved was like, dude, he really revealed his method. Or do we have a segment on Goosebumps and stuff?
We do, we do,
Okay,
we do.
I'll talk about it when we get there.
Okay. Do you guys want to just jump right into kids horror? Because we could just jump right in.
Yeah, sure. What the fuck?
Okay, sure. Why not? So
Brian, are you
Let's
okay?
go.
All right. Well, so firstly, it's kind of difficult to know exactly when the horror genre began catering to children.
I mean, right out the gate.
Basically,
All horror is comedy. It's like the tragedy comedy mask. It's
So,
like two sides of the same fucking coin. It's horror is comedy.
Well, and
no fucking horror like the Chucky.
God,
Child's Play?
Right out the gate,
Jesus
dude.
Christ!
Oh my god, are you doing this as a bit?
No, Child's Play. Think about it, man.
We
like,
knew.
fucking,
We fucking
Who is
knew.
afraid of a fucking the doll with the knife and it's the murderer in the doll's fucking body? This shit's the stupidest shit in the world.
It's like 6 minutes into the episode, not even, and Brian's already on a tear.
And Brian's example of the beginning of history is the Child's Play movies.
No, listen, I'm just using semi-relevant context to move backwards through time.
Speaking
just
speaking
because
of
you're a
context,
time-traveling vampire, you jump around.
Speaking
I
of
go linear
context,
from...
if you've never met Brian Velez, which I'm sure many of you never have,
All of you know me. Every single one of you know me.
he's a particularly boisterous character, and we're excited to have him for that very nature. But it's gonna get a little loud.
It's gonna get very tangential. All right, so
What's that, like a dessert?
That was
Tangential pudding.
No, he played wide receiver on my high school football team.
Mike
Tangential Johnson.
Smith, Washington Jones, Jackson,
Okay.
Jefferson.
Okay, we ready? All right, so back to what I was saying with the informational part of this podcast.
The title of this podcast is really going to be apparent, I think, in this episode. We should just never have done this.
Nobody asked for this.
So again, it's difficult to know exactly when the horror genre begins catering to children because in large part it's difficult to really put up, what is horror? It all sort of is cultural. What were ancient Sumerian kids afraid of? What were Spartan kids afraid of?
Famine?
What were mamby-pamby, the progeny of the British monarchy? What were those kids afraid? You know what I mean?
Look,
Like it's all...
It's Jump Street. Like, look at Grimm's Fairy Tales. Fucking Hansel and Gretel.
We're about
it's a
to.
fucking horror tale.
We're about
So
to.
is Little Mermaid. I mean, it's aimed at kids. Like, hey, kids, this is fucking scary.
My
Parents aren't afraid of that shit.
theory
They love
would be
watching their
like-
kids piss.
My theory would be like, they start out as cautionary tales, right? It starts out as something cautionary.
Effectively, yes.
And then that, as you grow older, you grew up with like spooky cautionary tales. So you're like, I'm gonna do drugs and have sex. but it's still in the back of your head. It's like, that's like a lesson I learned when I was a kid to like, keep me from wandering off into the woods.
Well, so the point here is that it's very cultural. It varies a lot. Obviously, it's safe to say that for as long as proverbs and fables and sort of these cautionary tales have been around to, quote, teach people lessons and teach people how to be part of a society.
The Bible's a masterclass in horror.
No shit, right?
Oh, dude, not even a joke. Yeah, that's not even a hot take. That's for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But ever since these fables and proverbs have existed to teach people how to be part of a society, there have been versions of those proverbs and fables that have been catered to children, right? We can go as far back as Aesop's fables. We've got The Boy Who Cried Wolf, which the original Aesop's fable, the wolf eats all the sheep and the kid.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
We've got...
Passion of the Christ.
yeah.
Christ the
There's
Bible.
no stakes. This is really what horror is all about. If there's no stakes, then it's not good.
Right.
It's
And
like
it's not about vampires.
there's been a
Medium rare, please, for mine.
I'm gonna do a horror movie set in a slaughterhouse, and then there'll be plenty of stakes.
Like Abattoir.
Oh, okay.
So, but like, but realistically, like the whole thing about horror as a genre is it's the only genre where like you're fucking everything's on the line. This is a pass.
Right,
fail.
your life is on the line.
You're never gonna watch a horror movie where it's like he like got away, but his legs got cut off, but he got away, and that's a bad ending. That's like he made it.
Oh,
Fuck
well,
yeah.
stay tuned because we actually have some of that in here for children. But yeah, Aesop's Fables, Boy Who Cried Wolf, The Farmer and the Viper, The Old Man and Death. These are all fables from fucking 1500 BC that are, that are catered to, like, kids were listening to all this shit and listening to these sort of these things that were like, well, these things exist, these larger than life things that if you don't play your cards right, they're gonna come get you. So Aesop, by the way, for like as little as it's actually known about him, there are like a crazy amount of myths about his life based on basically who's writing about him. We've got Aristotle, Herodotus, Plutarch, all wrote.
Oh, so it's kind of it's like the anonymous of back in the day. It's like this character did all kinds of wacky shit. Let's call him Aesop.
I really
Like
would.
Homer.
Yeah.
Is the Wanderer?
I really wanted to do Aristotle, Herodotus, Plutarch, morons.
Never get involved in a land war in Asia when death is on the line.
Oh my God. But again, speaking on myths and on Greece, we've got Icarus and Daedalus. Like that is very much a cautionary tale for kids.
Now we're cooking with Greece.
Grease lightning.
Boy.
When I was
a horror. Grease is a horror.
When I was a kid,
Grease is the word.
I appeared on a public access TV program for one episode that was titled after Daedalus. It was called Daedal Doors.
Okay.
Yeah, because apparently he made great doors. I'm not really sure what the backstory of that was. But
What did you do on this? What did you do for this?
I was a kid. I went, I spun around. I don't know.
That's horrifying.
Somebody saw you in a mall somewhere spinning around going, bye. We're like, I need that kid on my public access show.
It's like me and Richard
It's going to be
Simmons.
perfect
know
to
what
sell
else this
doors. So, Daedalus and Icarus, if you don't know the story, is, Daedalus helped, King...
Herod?
No. King Minos build the labyrinth.
Because of the Minotaur. Yeah, okay.
And then Minos was afraid that he had given some inside intel about the labyrinth.
It's just always happening in those stories back in the day.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this guy built me this great weapon of death.
Now I've got to kill him.
Fuck, now he knows about the weapon of death.
That still happens. But so he imprisoned Daedalus and his son. Well, I don't know why Icarus was involved in this, but
was
on
just
an
hanging out.
island in a tower.
It's
on
hard
the
to get
ocean.
daycare.
Right. So you're not going to be able to afford daycare. I'll just put your kid in there too. But at any rate, so then, because Daedalus was such a fucking genius, they used leather straps and birds' feathers and beeswax and all this shit to make wings and to leave this tower that they were imprisoned on. And Daedalus tells his son,
Sick tower.
yeah,
It's got a bunch of shit you can fuck around with up there. Hey, Anna, I'm sorry you're imprisoned in this tower.
They used the straps from their sandals. They used, anyway. And Daedalus tells Icarus before they fly away from this tower, hey, look, don't fly too low because the water from the sea will get on your wings and you won't be able to fly. And don't fly too high because if you get too close to the sun, it's going to melt the beeswax and then you'll fall to your death. And what does Icarus do? He flies too high. So there you go. These were stories that were told to kids.
Yeah, man, it's fucking terrifying. Don't suck, but don't be too fucking cool.
Basically,
that is the cautionary tale. Yeah, don't let anybody know how. Don't let anybody know you can fly.
just drive in the median, bitch. just right in the middle.
That's
Why
it's
even
kind
give
of
him
like
wings in
the
the first place. Be like, dude, why don't you just go to work? Like
that
everyone
story is
else?
kind of like the hereditary of the ancient world. You
It's
look
not.
over and your kid's just like ah.
It's not. It's not.
God almighty. But yeah, so all this stuff goes, ancient Rome has them, ancient Egypt has them. Ancient Egypt has one called the Tale of the Doomed Prince,
Catchy.
It sounds badass, right? But it's basically some king he couldn't have kids, and then he has a kid, but then the 7 Hathors, which are 7 gods that tell every kid's fate when they're born, say that this kid's either going to die, he's either going to be killed by a dog, a snake, or a crocodile.
What?
They give him 3.
It was like the fortune teller is just kind of drunk and it's like it's gonna be a dog or maybe a crocodile.
Literally, he tried to call out. He was on his sick days. He had no personal days off. He's just like, you know what, fucking dog, crocodile. I don't fucking know, just leave me alone.
Snake.
Kid's
I don't
gonna
know,
get
dude.
killed
It's
by
like a
it.
snake dog,
Just-
maybe crocodile.
When it happens, you'll fucking know. Okay?
Yeah, listen, the microwave just beeped. I gotta go.
I've been here for 15 fucking years, Jimmy. Get off my back.
So, but there's some, then the prince gets married, and then he tells the girl about his fate, and at some point she saves him from a viper, so the viper doesn't bite him, and then I think at some point the dog starts to talk and reveals to the boy, yeah, I'm gonna kill you, and then he runs away from the dog and then runs right into the waiting jaws of a crocodile.
Damn.
I don't know what the lesson is.
That's
It's
some like
just-
fucking what's that story?
Sucks to suck.
Fucking Ilmet and Lankmar. Fucking the one where the death is like the prince gets the prophecy that if he goes to like Bucharest or whatever, he's gonna.
But that's a lot of these
No,
stories where it's like,
he's gonna die.
What is this?
So there's a story where there's like some prince, and he gets a prophecy that death is gonna come for him. So he like
In Bucharest, Hungary?
no. So he
There's
yeah.
lots
Say
of other
this is
places
also
you can go.
some shit like that. It's an appointment in something, but the
I know what you're talking about.
prince gets this prophecy of death. So he's like, well, death ain't gonna find me. I'm fucking off to wherever.
Yeah.
So he rides his horse off, and then
Bucharest, Montana.
yeah, and death shows up at the palace, and the groundskeeper's like, oh, just missed him. And the death is like, oh no, I'm here for the maid. I actually have an appointment with him in Bucharest later. And it's
yeah, that's what it's like that was the fucking the curse of the gin. You know what I mean?
Like
It's
death
all
will
these
find
things
you
are
no
like-
matter what.
yeah, one of those.
Well, yeah, the djinn was like
That's the thing. is
yeah, you make a wish, very
the twist is
non-specific,
like, oh,
and it's
whoops,
like, yeah,
you went right where you're supposed to be.
right. I wish my mom was alive, and your mom
Which
comes back
again-
as a Walking Dead.
From an existential horror standpoint, like from a fucking dread aspect, like that fate is like, oh yeah, no, don't worry, you're right where you need to be, and it sucks, and then you're dead,
Yeah, pretty much.
and you're running from it, but dude, it's cool. basically
It's gonna get you.
there was a proto scream.
So
This was
Hey, it doesn't matter if you're a king or a street sweeper. Sooner or later, you'll dance with the Reaper. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
yes.
God Almighty.
And your whole life you have to deal with having a small peeper.
So we fast forward to Mother Goose as early as the 1500s AD. Definitely the 1600s. It varies, but yeah, that was all through England. And I mean, if you look at like Ring Around the Rosie, Mary, Mary, Quite Contrary, Jack and Jill, all these have sort of like.
Don't get me started on Humpty Dumpty.
But Humpty Dumpty actually has a more it's all metaphorical stuff. But I mean, I don't know how much kids knew what the metaphors meant. But I mean, these were all things that kids would chant, and all had much
during
darker.
the plague, Ring Around the Rosie, those kids absolutely fucking knew,
Right.
which makes it super dark.
Right.
The fact that kids didn't know when we were growing up reading
Yeah,
the real
that's
Mother
the
Goose
dark
black
part,
and white
yeah.
checkerboard.
Ashes,
book.
ashes, we all fall down. Kids
Yeah.
are like,
Ring Around the
fun.
Rosie, but it's funny. And it's like, no, yeah, those kids were actually singing that.
So
in
they
the
could
middle
identify-
of everyone dying.
Yeah, so they could identify people who had the plague.
You guys ever do the little? You guys ever do the little rhyme where you take a dandelion and you say,
She loves me. She loves me.
no, you
That's
take
the
a
one I know.
dandelion and you put your thumb right at the base. And you go, "Mama had a baby and his head popped off." And you like pop the dandelion right at the.
No.
That was one of my favorites when I was a kid.
Didn't know that.
Oh,
That must be a
Jesus Christ.
Michigan
Mama had a
thing.
baby and his head popped off.
But I mean, Mary, Mary, Quite Contrary was about Queen Mary, the second one of the Queen Mary of Tudor, who was like just crazy, like Catholic, was like super super religious and was like killing heretics,
She's
like
the Queen of Hearts.
Queen
what is
farts?
silver bells
Queen
and
of Farts.
Okay.
silver bells and cockle shells had to do with like torture devices, and Pretty Maids All in a Row were like people lined
the
up to
Iron
be
Maiden.
beheaded.
Little lambsy
Cockle
doggy.
shells had something to do with genital torture. I know that much.
Yeah, cockle shells. Yeah.
That's cuckold shells.
Cuckold shells is .com. It's brought to you by
This episode brought to you by
Cuckold shells.
cockleshells.com. If you're
Pretty
looking
maids
for,
all in a row.
if you're looking for
And their
cockle
husbands
shells,
are wanting to cry in the corner.
There's also the London Bridge. London Bridge is falling down.
about the Vikings fucking destroying the bridge.
Yeah, and then there's
It's
also
about Fergie. It's basically the prophecy that foretold the horror that is Fergie from Black Eyed Peas.
How come every time you come around? All right. So by the time we get to the Brothers Grimm, which is like late 1700s, we've got Cinderella, Snow White, Hansel and Gretel, Sleeping Beauty, Rumpelstiltskin. And we've also got in the late 1800s, we've got a psychiatrist from Germany named Heinrich Hoffmann, who writes a book called Der Struwelpeter,
You can just
which is
translate
Der Struwelpeter, which is just a book about misbehaving kids getting what's coming to them. And it just, I mean, at that point, it just becomes really obviously like a let's scare the shit out of these little
the
assholes.
Brothers Grimm. So like,
It's-
stop me if I'm wrong, but like, oh, that's grim.
well, yeah, because this shit's
Etymological.
Shit's dark. You know,
Yeah.
you know
No,
how
but
I mean,
Snow
probably.
White fucking ends.
chicken and the egg.
My favorite ending to any story ever. The Wicked Witch is put into a barrel filled with nails and rolled down the street in celebration.
Who's pretty now, bitch?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, by the time we get to like that era of Brothers Grimm and Heinrich Hoffmann, it's very obviously like a let's scare kids sort of thing, because it's
Little Johnny got this spanking.
it's very okay. So let's talk about Der Struwelpeter.
Let's.
It includes such memorable classics as Augustus, who doesn't eat his soup, and so he just wastes away and fucking dies.
There's the German boy dropped his lolly.
There's little Harriet
Terrifying.
who plays with matches and sets herself on fire.
Classic.
And there's Conrad Suck-a-Thumb, who won't stop sucking his thumb, and so a tall, mysterious tailor comes with his giant scissors and lops off both of his thumbs.
Oh,
Yeah,
As they are wont to do.
You know,
these are
like
these
you
are
do.
these
Yeah.
are kids' stories. These are like you better
Taylor meant a
behave,
different thing back
be
then.
good little children, or the man would come and cut your thumbs off.
You know Santa Claus, Sinterklaas?
You had
No,
better
there is. He will
behave.
come for you.
So
I like when you do one of those German accents, Brian. It just becomes like a weird, thick Mexican accent.
Yep, that's what I'm doing. That's exactly the bit.
Sinterklaas will come for you.
I'm going to just absolutely misrepresent every ethnic group I try to do an accent for.
that's great. That's goals.
You should hear my Japanese.
So
It's terrible. It's
Jesus
horrifying.
So the common theme of all of these is basically, these are things that were told to children in attempt to scare them into behaving, into listening, into whatever. So basically letting them know, like I said before, there are like these larger, darker, uncontrollable forces out there. And you better watch out and be good because you might find yourself in this terrible situation if you don't listen to me. You know what I mean? So, by the way, I want to get a little bit more into Heinrich Hoffman because he also wrote a book in 1911 for American audiences entitled Slovenly Betsy.
Ugly Betty?
Slovenly Betsy.
Oh,
is
like
this-
a later retelling, Ugly Betty.
Wait, because Ugly Betty's Hispanic, so this totally plays into my terrible accent.
Brian's Hispanic, you guys.
I'm not.
Oh yeah, Brian Velez. No, not so Hispanic.
I'm New Yorican. It's different.
So yeah, he wrote this book in 1911 for Americans called Slovenly Betsy. And this book features stories like The Crybaby, where a mother tells her daughter repeatedly to stop crying so much. And so she says, quit crying all the time, whatever. The daughter doesn't listen and eventually cries her eyes out of her fucking sockets.
Whoa, just literally cries her eyes out.
So her eyes just flop out of her head. So,
Cool.
I mean, I
So
feel
that's where that
Twilight
phrase comes
Zone.
from?
That's
Cry
like
your eyes out, yeah.
some Twilight Zone inspo there.
Well, that's a Rapunzel too. When so like Rapunzel, the whole story.
Her
of
eyeballs
that-
never came out of her
No,
sockets.
her Prince Charming, when he was climbing her hair,
Uh-huh.
just euphemism, and the wicked stepmother finds out that he's been climbing her hair, and one day he goes to climb it. Wicked witch or whatever pushes the prince out of the top of the tower, and he falls into a thorn bush. And
What?
It fucking scratches his eyeballs
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
And then he wanders the earth with no eyes for like fucking 10 years or some shit. And then
10 years.
but the resolution of
Very
the story
specific.
is that he is a homeless beggar and then comes upon a house and it's fucking Rapunzel with her haircut with like 2 kids. And she like accepts him and it's like a happy catharsis thing. But no eyes.
brought to you by Cuckle Shells.
Brought to you by Visine.
Cockle
You feel like your eyes have been ripped out by a thorn bush?
LensCrafters is for you.
I had my eyes stabbed out when I was a kid.
I wish someone would stab my eyes out right now. So yeah, Crybaby is the child crying her eyes out.
With Johnny Depp?
Yeah, with Johnny Depp.
There's
Yeah.
John Waters?
Heinrich Hoffman. We're talking about 1911 right now. There's also Polly, who likes playing with boys instead of girls, even though she's told not to. And what would you think the appropriate punishment for that is?
Having her feet cut off.
Why do you somehow always guess this?
I'm good at this shit. It's a good guessing game.
What's the appropriate punishment, Herr Hoffman? Her fucking leg is severed while she's roughhousing with boys.
Can't be a sockless maiden if you can't wear any socks.
Whole leg going.
It's not.
The moral of the story is listen
If
to
you
your
keep-
Is
parents.
women don't play with boys because you can't do boy stuff.
I guess with that one specific one.
It's ridiculous.
So
Ridiculous.
So obviously we've got tons of examples of like this early pre-radio television children's horrors. Actually, even this was a quote I had to include here. So the original Red Riding Hood was written by Charles Perrault, French gentleman, and obviously the original involves the wolf just eats Granny and Red, and that's it. End of the story. But so. There's, later on when Grimm did it, they had the woodsman that came and cut him out of the belly.
Save the day.
And all
No,
that shit.
it's
Yeah.
not always the happy ending.
Right. But Charles Perrault wrote this particularly terrifying passage in the original Little Red Riding Hood. Quote, "Children, especially attractive, well-bred young ladies, should never talk to strangers, for if they do so, they may provide dinner for a wolf. I say wolf, but there are various kinds of wolves. There are also those that are sweet, charming, quiet, polite, unassuming, complacent, and who pursue young women at home and in the streets. And unfortunately, it is these gentle wolves who are the most dangerous ones of all.
It's common era, man. Listen,
That's pretty chilling.
That's a thing to tell your child.
I like
well,
that,
what do
though.
you mean?
Yeah,
It's
beware of
fucking
strangers.
True.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, young lady, these dudes, they be fucking around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wolf. And by wolf, I mean a guy that's absolute fucking piece of shit.
Saying all the things you want to hear and doing
no
all
shit.
the things you think are, and then suddenly one
like
day it changes.
So last night at the bar, there was this dude like fucking weaseled up to some chick that was like, I'm just having my own night. I'm having my own night. He was kind of like getting closer and closer. He's like, do me a favor, sit down, get comfortable, but just don't make a mistake. I'm not hitting on you, okay? You can sit down, we can talk, but this is my night. Just leave me the fuck alone in any other way. And I was like, oh, fuck. She's well-versed in.
Good for her.
Hey,
she knows how to do
hey,
that shit.
motherfucker, right? So
She
we're
read
making
the story.
We're making jokes or whatever, and like there was something about, she said something about being an ally for homosexuals or like fucking like LGBTQ or whatever. And he was like, oh, are you a lesbian? And she says, oh no, I see myself with a man, and we've been riffing for a while. I see myself with a man, but I mean, I'm about whatever everybody, as long as everyone's happy and safe.
Crazy.
And I was like, it's crazy, because I'm imagining you with a man right now, and she goes, not this man, and points right at the fucking dude, and I had to walk out of the bar. I was like, oh my god, this bitch is my favorite woman in the world.
Jesus.
And it's just literally, it's because of, what was it, 1911 or whatever that this was written, and it's now 110 years.
Yeah,
later,
well, I think Little Red Riding Hood was earlier. Was way earlier.
And women are finally being able to go, hey, no, now that there's cameras and microphones and shit everywhere, like, yeah,
You can fuck off.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can actually go, no, go fuck yourself. Well, what big teeth you have, Grandma. Get out of here.
So, so yeah, obviously that's everything that sort of predates television and radio and stuff. But I mean, obviously, as a child of the 80s, Brian, you're the same age as me. Riley, you're a few years younger than us. But like, there were a ton of wild ass movies that maybe aren't so scary now. But I mean, at the time, they were, a bit much. I guess that's the best way to put it. Mm-hmm. Just for example, like The Never-Ending Story. Like,
Oh, Never-Ending Story is fucking terrifying.
Well, but it was
Yeah.
a treatise on existentialism.
That was-
it was a Swedish guy. What was the name of the gentleman that wrote
The Never-Ending Story? I have no idea.
Well,
That's
yeah,
Riley's
It was
specialty.
H.R. Never-Ending Storyton.
Geigerson.
Good. Treatise on Existentialism.
But yeah, because the nothing is everywhere and it's encompassing everything, and like
Yeah, the nothing is taking over.
the sort of
Yeah.
sadness, and you've got like the guy who's like, oh, I eat rocks, and now there's no fucking rocks anywhere.
The author's name is
Everybody-
Michael Endy.
There you go. There you go.
Okay. Well, I mean,
And it's really, and if you read the book itself, like it really is, it breaks down. It's an allegory for modern existentialism in a literary sense, and it's absolutely brilliant, and it's terrifying.
It is.
Existential dread is something I deal with every day.
I mean, but obviously it's not shit you're thinking about as a kid. I mean, as a kid, it was just like, oh my God, the horse is sinking in the mud.
Well, I guess in a
I don't
way
know.
you could
I think
even
you are. I think
you can
that's
equate like the experience of being a kid watching shit like that with the same thing, same cautionary tales, right? Except it's instead of in terms of like somebody's gonna come out of the woods and fucking eat you. It's like no, you really got to guard yourself against nothingness.
Yeah.
yeah. There's nothing there. It's an arbitrary set of ideals, and you're beset on all sides by this wacky, interplay.
Also,
And
don't take your horse through a swamp.
it's
That's a bad fucking idea.
Oh,
Did you see the fucking images
sign that says
of the
eternal
woman
sadness?
that was in the fucking
yeah.
mud with
I did
her
see that.
horse? It was motherfucking Atreyu
Yeah.
and Artax. Did you see this?
After Hurricane Helene, I believe,
No.
there's
I thought it was a fucking joke.
footage of a
dude.
woman
It
like
hurt
in the
my
mud with her
feelings.
horse, like getting the horse out and stayed with it and like got it out. But it's pretty fucking it's
Oh,
totally
no.
Atreyu Artax. Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Horse is okay. Horse is okay.
I had a traumatic
Shot it anyway, but it was
unlike
fine.
Artax.
trauma response to that.
Unlike Artax.
They
this horse is fine.
got Artax back. It's fine.
Do you think Artax is currently alive?
No, they shoot horses.
That horse
don't
is glue now.
No, Artax isn't alive or dead. Artax is in this weird in between, where
The liminal
where
space
there's
between realities.
it's an eternal ennui.
The liminal space in Richard
It's
Fortner's
eternal ennui.
fourth bedroom.
It's worse. It's the horse doesn't die. It's consumed by the sadness. It literally is just living sadness in perpetuity.
At the end of the movie, Artax gets out, so let's move on.
No, that was the movie.
Brian is talking about a metaphorical horse. I'm talking about the actual horse actor that played Artax.
How about the metaphorical horses?
No, that one's dead.
Fuck.
I don't know. I feel like we're beating all of these horses, though.
Off.
So there's also 1985 Legend
Legend is one of my favorites. That's it's Ridley Scott.
with fucking Tim Curry as the Lord of Darkness.
Tim Curry is fucking amazing in that movie.
Fucking that
you guys have seen
makeup,
Legend? Yeah, dude. Like Tim
Not
Curry's
since I was a kid.
Tim Curry's horns are
Cut
the fucking size of his
horn
head. It's
off
amazing.
The unicorn.
Yeah,
and
kill the
it's
unicorn just to have its
viscerally-
horn.
They're killing all the unicorns. It's the whole thing in the movie. They're killing all the unicorns.
unicorn just to have its horn. You guys ever listen to Sabotage? You listen to Sabotage, brother?
Sabotage with a V? Fuck yeah. Yeah, brother. Meat.
Jesus Christ.
So those who don't know, there's an 80s hair metal band named Sabotage, and they wrote a fantastic song, really top tier, top of the mountain ballad called Gutter Ballet. And one of the lyrics
Oh my god, that
is
video.
kill the unicorn just to have its horn. And that speaks to me.
It's a good
Because-
ballet.
because of Legend with Tom Cruise.
No,
Yeah,
I like
just
the
in
things-
general, it's like a philosophical statement that I can really take. Because sometimes you just gotta
Kill the things you
unicorn.
love, man.
Yeah, kill the unicorn just to have its
things you
horn.
love. Are we done with Legend? That's all we have to say.
No, actually, I think Legend's fucking amazing. In general, it's like one of Tom Cruise's earliest movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott, I think it's like his second movie,
Mm-hmm.
third movie or something, like after Alien. What I love about Legend and Tim Curry's fucking crazy cool makeup in
Yeah,
general.
that was crazy.
The best Satan you're ever gonna see.
Ever.
That
Yeah.
haunted me as a kid.
Dude, his just everything about his look, his thick neck, the horns
is-
being like the fucking size of
Giant
his head.
horns. Yeah.
It is the fucking archetype of
So
Lucifer. It
good.
is- that's the devil right there.
Yeah, that's like a horrifying story too, because so like Tom Cruise's love interest in that movie is like kidnapped by Satan, and like eventually fucking like he convinces her to kill a unicorn. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's like they kind of play it like oh, she had to do it to get away or something, but she's scarred forever.
Well, but also there's like that weird but I kind of want to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's a huge weird
I've got it
philosophical
out.
draw
Like
on
it
that.
wasn't my fault, but you would do it too.
Cool thing about that movie, all filmed on
Which
a
is horrifying.
soundstage. It all takes place in a big forest, but it's all soundstage work. So
Yep.
they built this gigantic enchanted forest in this soundstage. Really set the tone for like Lord of the Rings and shit later.
Well,
It
I
really
don't.
put Japan to shame with all that Godzilla bullshit.
I don't want.
What do you got? One Tokyo? We got an enchanted forest.
I don't want to get too hardcore into the actual
wanna get that
making
hard.
of the movie. I mean, we're talking about this was 1985, and kids are watching this.
Well,
fucking
yeah,
movie. It
and,
was
and
like a
again, just
fucking-
think about the implication of a message where it's like, oh yeah, you think you're gonna go save the world from all this evil, and then all of a sudden the knife's in your hand, and you're like, oh, I guess it's not my fault, I gotta do it too.
Yeah, the movie
Yeah,
fucking
huh?
bombed.
Yeah.
That's one of those flicks. Like, there's another one that came out not too far away from that named Dragon Slayer. There was a Dragon Slayer with Dragon Slayer.
Dragon Slayer.
It's Christian's younger brother.
Yeah,
Christian Slayer.
no, Dragon Slayer also is like the fucking really cool fantasy epic. It's like part comedy. It's got that guy from Ghostbusters too. He's a Vigo. That
Oh,
guy.
God, yeah.
But he plays the young Dragon Slayer. He's like a young apprentice wizard, and his master wizard John Gielgud fucking sends him off to fight this dragon by himself. And he goes and he finds there's a lottery and. Young ladies are being chosen to be eaten by this dragon. The princess of this little kingdom finds out about it and puts herself in the lottery so nobly. And he goes to save her, and then he gets there and she's being eaten by baby dragons.
Jesus.
And it's fucking horrifying.
God.
And he kills all the baby dragons.
God.
And then the big old dragon like nuzzles them. It's like, no, and then loses its fucking mind. Movie bombs. Boom. Like one of the coolest, hardest sequences. But like every kid who's like, this movie's fun, up until the hour and 20-minute mark when fucking you get to the cave and the
Murdering
princess
baby
is being
dragons.
eaten. Oh,
Jeez.
I love that shit. So the Legend had the same sort of issue where it seemed like it should be this fun little epic with, we got
Yeah, and then it
unicorns
got real.
and
Yeah,
then
the
it's
real
message
dark.
was like, hey,
dark as shit,
you're
and
all
you really
pieces
want to
of
fuck
shit.
Tim Curry because he's like weirdly hot. Like
That feels more like a
because
personal.
he's like a forbidden cock
That
in
feels
like
more-
demon costume.
you feel like
He's
it's personal.
veiny and
That's fine, but that's
horny
personal
and
for like
fucking just
60% of
felching
the
on
people that
girl.
watched that movie as a kid who are just like, what is this?
He's
Why do
cutting down all of the lesser horns because he's just such a big fucking black
talk
horn,
about penis
veiny
envy. He's like,
fucking
no
cock."
horns, but mine.
Yeah.
But also he talks like this and is fucking hot. I'm the devil. Well, Tim Curry, like pretty universally the hottest man that ever lived. So, like, in makeup,
Oh, okay.
just in makeup in general, for some reason he's hot as
Rocket.
fuck. I got a thing for it when I was a kid.
okay.
Oh,
All right.
rocket.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought you were gonna go Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I mean,
with
yeah,
that,
the
but-
fishnets work for me.
Okay, all right. Well, we also had in
I see
1982.
you've met my.
In 1982, we've got Dark Crystal. 1986, we've got Labyrinth. Both Jim Henson projects, which like
The scariest thing is that bulge.
The bulge?
While he's juggling the balls in his
David
hand,
Bowie.
yeah,
David
David
Bowie.
Bowie.
he's just fucking just in a
He's got
bulge
a
of those
cod pierce,
ties.
like a ridiculous cod piece.
Yeah, I
Jesus
think that was
Christ.
just tights and no underwear. I think that was just dick.
Yeah,
I think
but
that was a cod.
Just
piece.
cod, no piece.
That's just fucking
no, all piece. No,
battered and fried, baby. Just
one
cod.
piece. And it's
Yeah,
only
I mean,
one
there's-
episode instead of 578.
I think there's definitely, like, as a father, like, I don't think there's the same level of creepy shit accessible for kids that we grew up with.
Oh,
You know?
that's.
I mean, it's around. Don't get me wrong, it's around. And the streaming,
I think it's different.
The internet, the proclivities with the internet and shit.
Yeah.
But like, you kind of gotta look for it. It's not like, hey, coming out tonight, a movie for children.
I think
that
there
will haunt your fucking
yeah.
dreams.
I think there aren't as many movies being made as like these family movies for everybody to sit around that just go to like this super dark fucking place. Like,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, where'd you go, Jim Henson?
So yeah,
Yeah, Jim Henson. Well, we lose Jim Henson. We lose his
Jim
dark
Henson
side,
was like,
which
we got
was.
Sesame Street, but then also.
Yeah, but think of that too.
but also I've got these projects.
Jim Henson puts together Sesame Street, and he's got a fucking weird homeless character. He's got a cracked out elephant. So like this is like a working class neighborhood in a real city.
Yeah,
Like, there's some darkness there,
Yeah.
and like there were episodes of that.
Snuffleupagus was definitely shooting up
Dude,
heroin.
there's episodes in there that deal with
Those eyes
crime,
are- those eyes are
depression,
flooding.
murder,
Yeah.
parents being in prison,
But
like
that was
fucking
like
shit like that.
pre-Giuliani being a fucking lunatic.
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah. So it's like there's some heavy shit going on in Sesame Street. But that is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Again,
remember
I feel like there's a common theme. It was just like, hey, the world is terrible and you're useless.
cartoons and
guess-
shit in the 80s and 90s had a lot of weird content and heavy content that was kind of like passed over. This is kind of like what I wanted to talk about in the show is that parents weren't looking at this stuff.
no.
The
Parents weren't looking at
I don't
anything.
know. So if I may, very quickly, I don't think the parents weren't looking. I think that just like with old Looney Tunes and stuff, it's you shoot at the parents too. You know, what's the highest rating movie rating class? What's
like
the
the-
highest grossing movie rating
probably
class? G,
PG-13?
G.
G.
Why?
Interesting.
Because
General
the
audiences.
parents and the kids watch it.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
why it's laden with stuff for adults.
That's fair.
right?
Yeah.
But
And
like-
that's why horror is a kid's genre if it's done right, because parents aren't really afraid of the dumb shit.
Well, say you watch a movie like Gremlins, right? Gremlins is geared in all of the trailers and all the advertising as being essentially for kids. It's like, look at these little critters, like, oh, it's a fun little mogwai, bright light, and then fucking you get there And as Phoebe Cates is laying down the story of her father dying in the chimney on the way down as Santa Claus.
Everyone
And you're
opens
like,
their
"What the
pockets.
fuck?"
Everyone opens their pockets, but more people open their veins.
Yeah,
Suicide rates go up, and you're like, God
Jesus
damn.
Christ.
Weren't you the fucking naive girl in Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
And you know, I think like
I still
parents
have a weird boner, now it's gone.
I don't know if it's still the case, probably still the case, but like you get the kids in there and it just a little bit of creepy evil bullshit. Parents are like, yeah, that's fine. You know, like there's always you always have that concession. I mean, as a parent, it's like if I'm watching TV and there's just like one shooting or something, I'm like, yeah, that's fine, whatever.
Well, but so the deeper,
Because you're already like
We're already watching it. They already saw it.
I'm already hooked. I'm already.
Yeah,
you
it's
got me. I'm
fine.
watching
Yeah.
this movie all the way
Exactly.
through.
Yeah.
But one of the deeper points I want to get to is what is the message for all this? Is this deeper, darker, existential shit that's like really fucking gripping and sticks with you. And as you get older, if you pay attention, you go, oh fuck, and it has a lasting message.
Oh, 100%.
Parents, they're watching, but just like anybody else, they lack self-awareness. They lack any. They're so removed that if it's not a jump scare or a fucking pair of tits getting lopped off by the fucking guy in the mask, then there's no other context. And so it's not that they're not watching, it's that they don't understand. There's not the intellectual fucking rigor necessary to really be fucking horrified and go, maybe I need context for my kids before they watch this.
Well, see, I was gonna say earlier, like I always remember, and I mean, really, the reason we're doing this episode is because like I'm still stunted in a way in this like world of kid horror. This is the stuff that really gets me. I'll watch a fucking elevated horror all day, the Babadook and shit like that. None of that fucking affects me. But if we talk about like, you know, scary stories to tell in the dark or something, not the fucking movie, but the book that was given to children.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like
Just
that shit is
those
in my
fucking
head. It's
series.
like,
Series. That was like a series of books,
yeah,
right?
it's 3 of them, and it's
Yeah,
the
but
most
the first
horrifying
one
shit you'll
was-
ever.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's some of the most horrifying shit you'll
But
ever
also
read, but it's
some of the
not
dumbest
gory.
shit. Don't ever laugh as the hearse goes by. It's the dumbest shit.
Yeah, there's-
Look,
there's also-
give me my toe. Where's my
Yeah,
toe?
this guy-
I wish to wash and wipe your windows. But then in the
That's my
background,
favorite.
it's just
The Window Viper is my favorite
darkest,
one.
Like fucking, what are you, Geiger's fucking like long lost fucking
Dude,
conjoined
yeah, no,
twin?
like you'll that was
doing
the
imagery for the Window Viper.
if
Get
you
the fuck outta
look
here.
at like this is my treatise. This is my whole
tragedy
thing.
comedy.
The horror that we went through as kids, other than, you know, life, but like the shit that you would find, like I found Alvin Schwartz's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark in elementary school in the school library.
Me too.
Right? Like a lot of us in our
Pretty much every
this
kid.
Like
generation
fucking
did.
in the
Right?
first
And it's,
grade.
the way you're able to do that
7
is it's
years old.
marketed for kids. It's said that it's for kids, and if you flip through it, yeah, you find some shit like, you know, you see the hearse go by, you know, or give me my toe.
But none of those
But then,
stories were
if you're
scary.
reading through it, eventually you get to the one where the fucking witch hexes a person and fucking rides them as a horse until dawn, and their body's discovered the next day with fucking like iron horseshoes hammered into their feet. Like that's fucking nuts. The one where
There was always at least one in there that was like, ooh, I didn't like that
exactly.
one.
Yeah, and
I
they
didn't like
get,
that one.
and they're weird, and but that's even the ones that were kind of like silly and fun. Not to mention the illustrations are fucking psychotic.
Yeah.
like
Well, and that's really what it was. It was like these funny, stupid stories with fucking just images that burn. I can see them in behind my eyes right now.
gigantic monster
Like,
head
fuck.
with the weird vestigial
I love
body.
illustrating fucking scary, weird monster shit.
That
And
shit's
like
cool.
I can't get that level of fucking, oh my god, I don't want to see that.
That shit is cool. I love really well done specific art projects where like,
Dude,
you know, people look like people
I
and it's really
feel
realistic,
like Bernie Wrightson saw that illustrative work and went, holy fuck.
or vice versa. You know, like,
I mean, obviously.
oh yeah, no, Bernie Wrightson
yeah,
looked at that shit and went, oh
Bernie
my god, this
Wrightson
is
looked
good.
at that and went,
Bernie
God
Wrightson,
damn.
one of the illustrators for comic books, going way back, all the way from
Creepy
old school,
fucking-
old school EC. You know, we talked in our last, not our last episode, but the horror host episode about EC Comics.
Yeah.
You know, Tales from the Crypts, Vault of Horror, stuff like that. Bernie Wrightson was one of the original illustrators of those projects, and it's really weird, stringy, sketchy, creepy shit.
Web of Horror. Like,
Yeah,
he's in every single fucking.
But he did like Swamp Thing and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Well, so we've also listen. We're still in the '80s here. We haven't gotten to The Secret of Nim,
Secret of Nim is dark as fuck.
1982.
I also
That was
read the
Yeah,
book.
that's a punk rock Fern Gully.
You read Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim,
Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats and Nim, yeah, and also
Punk rock
the
Fern
sequel,
Gully.
Roscoe.
written by. So I haven't seen.
P. Coltrane.
I haven't seen. I haven't seen that movie since I was a kid.
It's fucking dark.
I remember it being dark. I remember being fucking like, this is a fucking cartoon. This shit's scary.
It's Fern Gully, but like fucking.
Well, it's about
not for kids.
scientific subjugation.
I
It's
didn't
about experimentation and horror and body
It
horror
really is like
stuff.
like the Tunguski. The fuck what's it?
The fucking, I know exactly what you're talking
Tallahassee experiment. The
Tallahassee
black guys that
experiment.
they gave the black people syphilis experiment.
He's speaking about a real thing.
Like
The
that's- this is-
Tuskegee
the
experiment.
Tuskegee. There you go.
You ever hear of the
Tuskegee was
Tuskegee Airmen?
Yes.
Yeah. So like kind of branched into that. There was another project.
Tuskegee experiment. And
Tuskegee
Secret of
experiment
Nim
was
is
literally
really
just like
heavily laying on that.
injecting a lot of weird things into black people.
I didn't know, so I haven't seen this shit since I was a kid. I do have memories
Let
of
him
it being.
die of it.
I do have memories of it being fucked up. But like, I happened upon an article when I was doing all this, and it was using it, Secret of Nim as an example of like the crazy shit that our parents let us watch in the 80s, and I never knew or I never realized that NIM was the National Institute of Mental Health.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
the horror of that story is? What they're injected
that it was
with? Consciousness.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
seriously, it's mice
Yeah,
that are
yeah.
given.
in the fictional story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly
Yeah,
But
the
it's about lab rats
fictional
essentially
story.
who are
It's a
given
fictional story
like a
told.
philosophical awakening and the intelligence to process where they are in the world.
Right. Well,
You know,
It's nuts because as a behaviorist, like I was in lockdown facilities where I was on panels with experimental drugs and shit, and I got firsthand to be able to see that that the DSM-5 and like the diagnostic model for mental health is a horror in itself.
Yeah.
So to go back to Secret of Nim and be like, oh fuck, I'm in this industry, and I had to move. Like it took me moving across the country and finding like 2 different places to get away from something that was this crazy diagnostic model of, what your problem is, you're abused and pumped with drugs and not acting properly.
Yeah.
And the problem is,
which I'm sure was like part of the writer's like perspective on.
Robert C. O'Brien.
Yeah, I'm sure that's Robert.
Well,
part
I
of
was like,
Robert
O'Brien's-
Conan O'Brien.
I was like, I wonder what the hell was going on. I wonder what the hell was going on in this dude's life when he wrote this book about mice. Like
he was probably watching
learning-
fucking people in
Robert Cheese O'Brien.
Well, so I
don't think that
oh,
we really
wait.
knew about
You guys think that I didn't do a deep dive? Is that what you think?
Listen,
That
I don't
didn't do a deep dive?
think that we really understood that consciousness was a thing until like the 1930s.
That's a different podcast, but
Well, so Robert C. O'Brien used to be a journalist for National Geographic, and he was inspired to write Mrs. Frisbee.
Look at it big. Never mind.
He was the name of the original book, 1971, was Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim, and he was inspired after reading a study conducted by John Calhoun at the National Institute of Mental Health. Now, what this experiment was that he placed 4 pairs of mice into a mouse universe that he called Universe 25.
Mouse Universe.
He called it Universe 25. It was a 9-foot by 9-foot
Are you
metal.
talking about the Utopia?
You're gonna have to give me more context than that.
But does this become like the disjointed mouse Utopia?
No.
Okay,
No.
it's a different experiment.
No, this is so he called it Universe 25. I don't know what happened in the first 24, but
Nothing good.
it was a 9-foot by 9-foot metal pan with tunnels and nesting boxes and food and water dispensers and everything, right? So the population doubled every couple of months. It reached 620 mice on day 315. By day 560, there were 2,200 mice crammed into a 9. The space didn't expand. It was 9 foot by 9
this
foot.
is known as the mouse Utopia
They be
experiment. It's
fucking.
fucking absolutely terrifying.
Right. So what happened once it reached that critical mass was mother mice kicked their babies out of the nest before they were ready to be out on their own. Other mice wounded and killed the babies. Males lost the ability to protect females. fighting and cannibalism and all kinds of shit broke out amongst the non-dominant males. The dominant males retreated into themselves, preferring to spend their time eating, drinking, and grooming because they didn't have to fight for that shit. And Calhoun called those guys the beautiful ones. And eventually,
this is the mouse.
Eventually, the mice completely stopped reproducing entirely.
Yeah,
even as they started dying off and the population started going down, they just stopped.
Shout out to Down the Rabbit Hole. Down the Rabbit Hole does a really great deep dive into this whole thing. It's Mouse Utopia. Fantastic fucking show.
Yeah. So Calhoun wrote, after this experiment was over, he wrote, "I shall largely speak of mice, but my thoughts are on a man, on healing, on life, on its evolution. Threatening life and evolution are the two deaths. Death of the spirit and death of the body. Evolution, in terms of ancient wisdom, is the acquisition of access to the tree of life. This takes us back to the white first horse of the apocalypse, which with its rider set out to conquer the forces that threaten the spirit with death."
God damn.
That was a very convoluted.
I thought he was
way
gonna
of
say
saying-
like I thought he was gonna write something like, "Damn, these mice is fucked up."
Damn, yo.
That was a very
Damn,
convoluted
yo.
way of saying that.
He might be tripping. No, listen. So it's funny because we use a white lab mice because of the mammalian similarity to structures and percentages of the size and activity of the structures of the brain of the human mind. Working with tryptamines as a behaviorist out west.
That's the stuff that makes you tired after you eat turkey on Thanksgiving.
Tryptophan.
Yeah, I'm a fan of tripping. But it's so.
What's a tryptophan?
A tryptamine is a chemical chain that changes the order and the sequence in which the information that you perceive is ordered and thrown back to you in your brain.
Okay.
Psilocybin is one of them. Johns Hopkins had a really great study about using psilocybin in white lab mice and proved that where before, like, there was no, like, once brain cells were dead, once neuron chains were damaged, they were damaged, that there was actually a neural net positive in the prefrontal cortex for dendritic spikes using psilocybin in lab mice. So to take all of that stuff, and why do we use these animals to try and, like, look at what would happen in a quicker way, like fruit flies. Yeah, they reproduce quicker, so we can see generations upon generations where
It's like the M. Night Shyamalan movie Old.
Where, like, people
Ooh,
hunt.
spoilers for Old. Sorry.
So, like, we can't do people because there's for 100 years. We can't wait to see how
Can't get
how
them on
that
a
goes.
beach where
Can't
there's
shove
time is
them into a
accelerated.
fucking vat and see.
You can't
how-
put people on a isolated beach where they're then infected with things and then they have to accelerate their age.
Well, so this isn't even necessarily infection, but it's
Stop
like,
talking
okay,
about M. Night Shyamalan.
That's not
movies.
what happens in that movie.
Liar.
when we're watching the mice in this mouse utopia thing,
They stay young.
We're,
Sorry.
we're seeing basically an accelerated process that will mimic what happens with overpopulation and other societal factors.
And then Robert
humanity.
O'Brien said, "I'm going to write a book about this."
These mice is fucked up.
Yeah.
mice
And then,
is
like,
fucked up.
and so you think, like, okay, well, they're just mice. I mean, they're not like people. But then, like, well, wait a second. So we see what.
So
we see
then
what psilocybin
he writes
does
a
in the
book
human brain.
where
We see-
the mice are like people.
Oh,
Oh, wait a
somebody
second.
said,
Wait,
"Let's
wait,
make
no,
a
no,
movie."
no. Hold on. Douglas Adams already did this, guys.
That is true.
Yeah, he does that. Oh yeah, it's the mice. Fuck. Spoilers for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
No,
So-
there's no spoilers.
So
You
let's
already
move on.
did
We've
that.
also got fucking Willow. We've also
Willow
got,
is one of my all-time favorite. I had a pet turtle named Mad Mardigan for the longest time.
Dude, Willow is horrific
Mad
in so
Mardigan,
many
wait.
ways. I remember just being petrified of those pig dogs right from Jump Street, dude. Like right within 5 minutes of the movie starting, it's like, oh shit.
I
the fuck is
often,
that?
my daughter will respond if I'm like, out of the way, Peck.
We've talked about that on
Yeah.
the podcast before. We've also got Return to Oz, 1985.
Oh,
Fuck
Jesus
that movie.
Christ.
Fairuza Balk.
That movie, Fairuza Balk,
Fuck
yeah.
you.
That movie still
Gross.
haunts the dreams of so many fucking 30 and 40 something year old
So
people.
gross. But Wizard of Oz is gross.
Yeah, no, the stories are pretty intense in general, but I mean, the Return to Oz was very like, they were like, I want to be true to the books, but with a real
Yeah.
fucking weird, like,
Jesus.
practical effect,
That
80s edge.
Real
movie
80s shit.
fucking was weird. weird.
Weird as fuck.
fucking the Wheelers.
Rollerblading
The
fuck.
Wheelers. Yeah.
It was like the buggy rolling guy. Buggy Wowie.
Yeah.
French dude.
So, but he
watched that movie and was like, oh, I could do that myself.
And that's just a few, dude. We've got Ghostbusters, we've got Beetlejuice, Monster Squad, Poltergeist. Like arguably,
Poltergeist. I mean, no,
is
that
a
was
family.
that
Was a family movie
because it's a family.
Right.
And Poltergeist is the one where they use real human skeletons for the effects.
Yo.
Jesus. We've got Stand By Me. We've got Clash of the Titans. We've got Gremlins. We've got all these movies that were like.
Yeah.
It's a whole episode.
Yeah, Brian's got a whole treatise.
I got a whole episode.
Well, that's
on
a
Gremlins,
fucking
yeah.
fantastic movie. But this is the thing. There was a period of time from like 1980. Okay, so there was horror stuff for kids a long time ago, sure. You know, and then we did the horror host episode, which was like if kids want to stay up and be naughty, they can watch like the man with the brain on fire or whatever.
Dude, USA Up All Night.
Yeah.
Creature double feature.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
But like through the 80s into the 90s, there's this massive explosion of like very specific, like we're gonna do some creepy shit just for kids,
Right?
You
Yeah.
know?
All of it's for kids, man. Listen, the best adults are big children, and the rest of them, they're the ones that miss it.
Mm-hmm.
As they're not watching, they don't have the fucking mental fortitude to know what the fuck they're being given and how it's being packaged. But it's a pay by numbers fucking thing. Tragedy and comedy. It's two sides of the same mask. Horror and comedy. Dude, again, no one's afraid of Chucky with the fucking knife. No adult is like, oh my God, I'm so fucking scared. But they're laughing their dicks off while little Jimmy is fucking like, oh my God,
Yeah.
When I was a kid, you know, grew up kind of poor, I was a voracious reader. Like I read more books from 5 to 13.
I think we pretty much all were, yeah.
Than I did the rest of my life.
The three of us, not
Oh, yeah,
people in general.
was,
The three of us
I was
all were.
covers over my head reading
Same.
Pet Cemetery.
Endless reading at the dinner table, like always.
And now
reading,
I'm
yeah.
ashamed of how much Stephen King I read, and thinking it was horror, and not realizing it was just horrible writing.
Like two or three good Stephen King
fuck
books.
you, Stephen
Yeah,
King.
listen, man, he has like maybe like 8
Dude, that's
fucking
kinda cool, though.
paragraphs per.
A lot of what I wanted to say
Why
is
don't you
that
tell Bachman that he sucks too while we're talking about it?
Wait.
from Bachman Turner
Eric
Overdrive,
From Archers of Love?
Richard Bachman. Oh,
Eric
this
Bachman.
this gives me I just
Richard
reminded
Bachman, his
No,
other.
Eric Bachman does suck. but
Yeah,
Archers
fuck
of Love
him
was-
too. Fuck him.
I just reminded myself hearing the name Richard. I want to recant something that I said on the horror host episode. I said that I was referring to Freddy Krueger being a horror host in the 80s, which he did have his own late night, like, I'm Freddy Krueger. But I called him Richard Englund. That character is played by Robert
Englund, yeah.
And when I heard myself say that today, I felt like a real stupid piece of shit.
Yeah, well,
but when I was a
you
kid,
are bad and you should feel bad.
when I was a kid, I used to go with my mom to like Value Village, like thrift store. It was more of a northern thrift store, but like,
We have
I couldn't go get myself some shit. I didn't have any money, but I could definitely steal a book. So I would just, I would just peruse.
from the thrift store.
I would
Steal the
forever.
books
I
from the
still
thrift store. That
there's
sounds like
something
a great punk song.
There's something ingrained
Steal
in
the
me.
books from the thrift store.
There's something ingrained in me that every time I go to a thrift store, I gotta look through the books.
That's a Slovenly Betsy
Yo,
song.
me too.
But I found
Slovenly Betsy.
Yeah, Slovenly
Stealing
Betsy
books-
wrote that. Stealing
No,
books from
listen,
he's stealing books from the thrift store.
We're gonna drop that hit single in about 3 months.
But when I got into spooky shit, there was always like a young adult scary book that was going to be available. There was like a VC Andrews or,
Yeah.
or
Oh, dude, Flowers
Christopher
in the
Pike
Attic,
or
which
like
is not
God.
a kid's thing, but
Jesus,
Not a kid's thing.
Very fucking spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just fucked up.
But like Christopher Pike was this guy who would write these particularly graphic teen horrors things. Like he did one called Monster. I remember that came out in like 1993. That was about a town that had like a lake that was where a meteor had struck, and like the football jock goes swimming in this lake one night and gets this parasite, like alien parasite, and then like a hive mind thing happens, and the town slowly gets taken over. But it's all through the perspective of like this cheerleader, and she's just like, I'm gonna save the town. It sounds really silly, but the way that this guy wrote it, it was graphic and intense and fucking horrifying. And like there's a sequence at the end where like this girl like loses her virginity or gives it to the good nerd boy that she's been like hanging out with this whole time, but because she feels herself like turning into this like space monster creature on the inside, and so she sleeps with this guy, and then fucking right after they fuck, she just rips his throat out with her teeth. And I'm like 9 years old reading this book. I was like, God damn. When I was like growing up, I had access to like a million, highly cultured books. I read fucking Tolstoy and shit like that. But I really wanted sleaze. Like even as a young man, I was very attracted to like what's the chunkiest sleaze that I could get my hand on.
Constantly exploring the woods for porn.
Yeah, right. So every episode we're gonna make a reference to fucking woods
To porn in the woods.
No, but as a kid, it's so easy to get access to books if because your parents are gonna read your books for the most part.
They are not. You said they're not going to read your books, right?
Yeah. They're just he's reading, then he's probably engaging in like some intellectual exercise. In the meantime, I'm reading fucking Stephen King, but like shitty Stephen King, like the Tommy. There's a Tommy Knockers. Stephen King wrote a book in 1987 called The Tommy Knockers.
Oh fuck yeah!
Jesus.
Fuck yeah. The Tommy Knockers.
Well, how many books? He's written so many fucking books. It was
Well,
bound to happen.
They're all
Crazy.
Dark Tower fucking.
Yeah, but
Right.
like the access that you could get, especially if you're going my route and getting the thrift store books, you get a stack of those for like fucking $1.
Well,
Or,
Brian, I don't know if you remember. So like Brian and I have been friends since we were like 12, 13 years old, and where we grew up, there was like just leaving the neighborhood, there was like a plot like grocery store and like restaurants and bullshit right there. We had a secondhand bookstore right there. Do you remember that place?
Oh yeah, it's still there.
It's the
Is
one.
it
It's
still
the one
there?
by the
It's still there
Publix,
with the fucking
by
with
the
the,
shores,
with the
right?
postal.
Yeah. I bought
Still there.
I bought a bunch of shit from there. I used to live out in that area too.
And so
different time.
yeah. So when I remember when I first started working, I was working at that Publix grocery store right there, and I remember like going to like on our like we would have breaks and stuff like that, like going to that store and looking at random ass like and I was more into like old sci-fi, like a lot of Asimov and Bradbury stuff, but like I remember going into that store and then being like, cool, when I get my next, fucking $48 paycheck, I'm going to go in there. But I mean, they had all kinds of paperbacks that were like 50 cents, $1. You know what I mean? It was all just used books, which is another thing that I feel like has kind of fallen by the way. I'm surprised that place is still there.
So there's
Like little independent bookstores, yeah.
Just little old used bookstores.
All right. Shout out to All Books and Comics, great comic shop in town here. Since me and Pat have been kids, it was where I bought my first D&D dice, and it's like all these really cool fucking
That place
old
has been there
paper
forever.
books,
Yeah.
Paperback books and whatnot. And there's this like genre that doesn't exist anymore, which is like horror paperback from the 80s. Paperbacks from Hell is a really great compendium of that knowledge.
Oh yeah. You were
Where
talking
it's like
about that.
the artwork, even for some of the stupid ones, where it's like, oh, the stories are dumb, but the art is like scary stories to tell in art.
That's a big culture too. Is like 80s and like 70s to 80s horror covers.
Oh, yeah.
Dude.
There are plenty of. I mean, I collect vintage paperbacks, and like I will absolutely. Even the book sucks. I don't care as long as the cover's dope.
Paperbacks from Hell is a brilliant deep dive into what you want to look for, and it breaks it down into genre. And it's
Right, and it was like a compendium series of a bunch of like just horror, like I don't know, probably once a year they'd put one out and just be like, okay, and then this is the story.
But you don't have that anymore.
with,
So
like,
it's like
cool-
Harlequin's Super Romance with Fabio was on the cover. You know what I mean? You're like, dude, I want one Fabio with
lot
the
of-
girl.
a lot of people
with
don't
the
know that-
Isadora on the
Yeah.
front.
A lot of
Like,
people
I'm
don't know
looking
that
for
that's how
paperback.
Fabio. That's how Fabio
You know?
got famous. Was posing
Oh,
with
100%.
romance
Or
novels.
like, or
and
me
shit.
and Riley, we had Illustrated Man, Ray Bradbury.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. I gave you one of my copies, and
And
then
they
my
were
dog ate my
different.
copy.
They were
And now
different.
you have a fucking copy.
Yes, I do, and it's hidden from any dogs. I
Wayward
thought about
dogs
eating it
cannot get
once.
this.
It's a tasty
thought
read.
about
It's a
eating it
tasty read.
I was like,
but it is-
the story behind my vintage 1960s copy of The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury getting eaten by my dog is we had just gotten a puppy. I was reading it and it was on my coffee table. I had people over for a nice dinner, and we're having dinner and like drinking wine. And I look over and this puppy's shredding it.
Oh
And
God!
I say to my wife very calmly, as I fucking panic inside, I go, "Sweetie, is the dog eating my vintage copy of 1960s Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury right now?" And she goes, "Yeah, looks like it." I look at my guest and I go, "Well, everything fades." You know.
Jesus Christ. And Ray Bradbury rolled over, congratulations.
I fucking died inside. I was like,
No, yeah, no, but he was brought back to life just to go, thumbs up. Kid. Good job.
But I mean,
I just found a fucking Tops. It's the Tops comics. It's a Ray Bradbury trilogy of horror.
Ooh.
Oh,
where
nice.
the introduction is talking about how he formed his relationship with William Gaines from EC Comics and Mad Magazine, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, nice.
Because someone had written him and said, hey, there's this comic that you need to read. And it's like Far From Home. I can't believe it's Far From Home. And
The Spider-Man Far From Home.
yeah. It's the Spider-Verse. Yeah, fucking shout out to Marvel Cinematic Universe for being absolute fucking trash. At least you know how to use colors and lighting. DC, we're talking about you.
God damn.
But like the culture
Hold on.
of like following. Go ahead.
So he's talking about like this is because this Illustrated Man, he gets an unsigned copy of this comic strip, which is basically Rocket Man and Kaleidoscope married together in a comic strip.
Oh, cool.
And he finds out that it's William Gaines and EC Comics. So he writes him and he goes, I wanted to give him a Christian response. And this is the beginning of the Tops comics. It's perfect, dude. I don't even want to fucking, I'm going to put it in plastic and see it because I love it.
For those who don't know, Ray Bradbury's Kaleidoscope is one of the most chilling and
oh my God, so is Rocket Man.
mind-bending stories of all time.
Oh my God. Ugh. And so, they're both in the same book. They're both in his Illustrated Man. But so what he said was, he goes,
Is Rocket Man the one where it's like look up and make a wish? No, that's Kaleidoscope.
no, Kaleidoscope's Look Up and Make a Wish. Rocket Man is where the dad's like, I swear I'm not going to go again. I'm never going to leave.
It's,
But he was looking up at the sky
it's
in the
a
morning.
Little kids look it up and he sees a shooting star and
So they married the two-
mom's like, make a wish, sweetie. He's like, I wish Daddy was coming home.
And it's his dad falling back to Earth.
the
Yeah.
Right,
atmosphere.
so that's the EC version of it. There's a marriage of Rocket Man and Kaleidoscope from Illustrated Man, which is brilliant.
yeah.
And he was like, I want to be a Christian man about this. I want to say, hey, I can't help but notice that you heavily referenced my works in this. And I think it's wonderful. I love what you did. Just let me know when you'll be sending my royalty check in the mail. And William Gaines sent it the next week.
Nice.
So then he said, hastily penned a letter saying, I'm worried about all the wolves out there and about my rights. So if you will just please do what you did there with 30 to 40 of my works so that I could be, saved from people who might exploit my material without my knowledge. And they said, sure. And they fucking
Did every Ray Bradbury story from then on.
Yep. And,
Nice.
and him and William Gaines were best friends.
Cool.
Nice.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. But I was going to say the like the 80s horror book cover culture.
Yeah.
I mean, that's based very strongly in like your pulps of the 40s, 50s, and
Yeah.
60s, Tarzans and John Carter of Mars, shit like that. But like you'd always get the coolest artists.
The problem is so many times it was misleading. I mean, and this goes all the way into
That's absolutely true.
We're gonna get into R.L. Stein once we get into the 90s.
Well, it's like you get like Frank Frazetta or something to do like
Right.
Conan the Destroyer, and
Right.
but like that is going to be a true to form. But then also, like
You get into like Goosebumps. I can't tell you how many Goosebumps. We're not going to talk about Goosebumps. We're going to talk about Goosebumps here in a little bit, but how many times I would buy one of those
I've
books
got
based
Goosebumps.
on the artwork, and then read the story and be like, oh,
Oh yeah, I was so disappointed when I got Welcome to Dead House and it had a cover with a house on it, and then I read the book, no house.
or even back to the
And everyone's alive?
even back to
Main character?
even
Living?
back to what was the series of books we talked about earlier with the artwork in it. God damn it,
Scary Stories.
yeah, scary
Yeah,
stories.
Scary
Yeah,
Stories
yeah,
in the dark.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
The
so
stories
much
are
of that
bullshit.
artwork, you'd look at and you'd be like, "Oh, badass," and then you'd read the story and it's like, "Ugh, no, come
Yeah.
on, just make the artwork match the."
V.C. Andrews. Artwork, stupid. Stories, oh my
Amazing.
fucking God.
Yeah, the artwork for like flowers
goes
in the
both
attic.
ways.
Look at the cover and the name of flowers
Flop.
in the attic is just like, oh, it's just a house with the light
Flowers
on.
in the attic.
Flowers in
Oh
the
my
attic.
God.
And then
they're
just
having
like,
sex
I don't
with
even
each
want to
other
go
when
over
they're
the content, but
14?
that shit's crazy.
The
But-
of that story.
yeah,
It's,
like
Yeah.
And then
again, but now
And
we're
then you'll see
outside
like
of
a weird creepy doll
well, that's
with
the
a
same sort of
bloody
thing if
eye,
you-
and,
if
like,
you
all of a
think
sudden
of,
it's
like-
about like a couple that's
you
having
think of-
marital problems.
if you think about books like was it
Although we
Frank
did say
Ketchum?
Flowers in the Attic, but we did say, okay, well, that's not kids' horror. The story itself is
Sure,
horrific.
it's
but
not.
I mean,
But as a child, I had to
I believe I watched.
see
They did a movie, and I believe
Yeah,
I
Brooke
watched
Shields.
that as a child. I remember my mom being like, "Let's watch this."
There's
and being
stuff like
"Oh
that
my
that gets
God."
lumped into the horror genre that's really more of like a real world horror. Like Jack Ketchum did the book The Girl Next Door.
psychological thriller.
Yeah, The Girl Next Door is just, I mean, it's the most horrifying sexual assault story you ever heard, and
Yeah.
it's based on a very true story. But like it gets put out. I'm looking at a cover right now, and it's got like a cheerleader with like a doll.
Right.
You know, and
which book? What was this? Again?
It's
I'm
called
sorry.
The Girl Next Door by
Okay,
Jack
okay,
Ketchum.
okay.
Like legendary, like holy fuck. You know,
Yeah.
like you read 10 pages into this and you're like, oh, god damn. Like it's legendarily like this is the most brutal thing I've ever
I
read.
feel very, very
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
And the 80s were like that. This was like there was like this
Trying to make a
flip.
joke about this.
You know, you'd get
No, don't. Just don't.
No,
you
I'm
get
not-
these
I'm
books
not.
like fucking all these Stephen Kings or fucking V.C. Andrews or what have yous, and they'd have fairly tame covers. And then you'd read the content, it'd be fucking horrific. And then in the 90s, that whole switch flips.
Right,
and you
right.
get the craziest covers for anything you ever
Yeah,
saw.
for
And
real.
it would just be like,
Yeah.
my summer was boring.
My dad lost his job
Yeah,
and life
exactly.
sucked after that.
But also, I mean, there was like a demon dog at some point.
Yeah.
But what
For like 4 pages.
4 pages, yeah.
And then my girlfriend went to college, and,
Yeah.
you know, we know how that goes.
Well, so
A good example of that actually is Stephen King's The Body, which is called The Body and is ostensibly about a dead body, and it's 45 pages of like 4 best buddies walking down the train tracks.
I was about to say I hate how much we've referenced Stephen King in this episode.
He was the king of the 80s, man.
Wait, but
No, he's such horror
but
trash.
hang on, because I will say, as an adult reading Stephen King, it's the worst. I feel like maybe Stephen King is low key a kid's horror author.
No, he's not. No, he's not. You're wrong.
Is
I
that
love
why
it.
he always
I
wants
love
the
it.
kids to fuck?
It might be the case.
I'm referencing. There's a very famous passage. There's a very famous passage in Stephen King's It, a multi-million-dollar blockbuster film as well. But the novel It. One, there's a
all fucked
horrible,
down here, I think is
horrible
what he meant.
subplot.
We're all fucking
As
down
soon as
here.
the editor fucked up, man, we all fucked
We're
up.
all fucking down here.
You'll fuck too.
The red balloon is just a
It's
fucking
an upside down
ass clit.
pineapple. It was actually an upside down pineapple balloon.
But there's a passage in that novel where all the losers club, you know, the kids, they have like a weird, I guess you could call it an orgy. There's only one girl. I don't know, really.
Yeah, no, that's
I think that's called a gangbang.
But it's very uncomfortable, and they are children.
course it is.
They're children.
Yes.
So it's like that's Stephen King for you guys.
He's a weird guy.
Everybody gives him a pass.
He's a
well, but
weird
so,
guy.
I don't.
So
I don't.
all
He
of
looks like a
Stephen
gibbon.
King shit has to do with like something that's a little bit more transdimensional. He's actually a sci-fi writer. Surprise. And the ties to every single fucking thing he wrote to the Dark Tower series is very fucking impressive, but it's super fucking pedantic to get there.
Yeah.
If you grew up reading Pet Cemetery and watching
Yeah.
The Shining,
Honestly, fucking
it's not-
yawn.
Yeah, that sounds like
Yeah.
somebody who's done
But-
so much cocaine that they've written 700 books in 4 years.
No, but
would
I
do,
mean,
yeah.
but how coherent this world he wrote. It's like fucking Tarantino, Red Apple Tobacco, being in Fox Force 5, being the pitch from Uma Thurman's character in Pulp Fiction. How the whole thing is a cohesive world.
Like the
Thinking
slow
about-
burn cohesion.
Thinking about how much time that this person wrote all of these things, and to have that
To get to,
cohesion
yeah.
is brilliant.
Which is fun. I think it's funny because they did that movie based off of his sequel to The Shining. Was it
Dr. Sleep.
Doctor Sleep?
Yeah.
Right. With the book, Doctor Sleep is a loose sequel featuring one character, Danny Torrance, and follows a completely different adventure. So what they did in the movies is they fucking loop that shit together and do this incredible tribute to like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, making it one of the most meta sequels of anything
Jesus
ever
Christ.
made.
Which, to flip this whole fucking discussion on its head, The Shining was a children's movie. That was a kid's horror.
The Jack Nicholson Shining is
Absolutely.
I don't think so.
I don't think I would have
100%.
enjoyed that as a child.
I don't
did.
think the naked rotting
I
old
did.
woman testifies to that.
I did. I watched that at fucking 9 years old. Holy
That
shit! I need
explains
to go
so
t-
much,
I wanna
Brian.
go-
Yeah,
wanna
but
call
I
my
mean, I
therapist.
watched Omen, like the fucking 70s Omen as a
My
little kid.
grandmother
and I
sat
remember
on the
being
couch
like,
cackling while I watched these things. I think I was abused.
just because you watched a thing when you were a kid doesn't make it kids.
Well, I mean, I will say, I
There
was
are
also,
twin girls.
I was
it
raised,
was, but that was not
I was raised in
marketed for children.
I was raised in a house where I wasn't censored at all. I watched every fucking art house movie there ever was. And I mean, admittedly, when I had a kid and I was trying to take the same approach, people were horrified. They're like, "What are you doing? You can't let your kid watch this." Like my wife was like, she can't watch the fucking Walking Dead. Are you out of your mind?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"What? As a kid, you watch scary shit." And like now
Yeah.
I realize
I'm
like
literally
that's fucking
reading-
nonsense. Why would I do that?
I'm literally reading The Walking Dead to my son. Like, the
Yeah,
comics I've got.
Yeah, but he's older now. I'm talking like Charlie was like
No,
3 or
it's still-
4. And I'm like, yeah, fucking zombies, whatever.
Yeah, he's like, what,
Yeah,
10, 11 years old now?
Yeah, but it's worse when they're that age.
I
When
suppose.
they're younger, there's not enough. And that's the thing about kids' horror.
Yeah.
Like, we can make stuff really fucking gross, and we hope that the adults fucking see it. That's really the thing that we're talking about here. That, please, somebody be self-aware and realize what the hellscape really is. It's not the demon fucking doll.
Just trying to wake
It's
the
not-
children
just
to the
please,
horrors of existence.
Because your children don't understand these things. They go, "Oh my god!"
Now
it's scary."
this is a conspiracy theory I can really get behind. Do you think that book publishers from the 70s and 80s were like, we're going to hide this shit for kids so that the next generation will be enlightened?
Kilgore Trout.
So that in the 90s, Jesus, what the fuck?
Kill
So
the
that
trap.
in the 90s they can really
No, I
we
think
can
that
just
the
bust
writers
it wide open?
No, I think the writers packaged it
Uh,
so that they would get publishing packages.
you know what I think it was?
That's what I
I
think.
think it was kids were reading more than adults were because adults have jobs and shit.
Oh,
So
dude, you
they
could
were
get a
just like-
personal pan pizza from fucking Pizza Hut. Are you
Yeah,
kidding
that's
me?
right. Yeah. I miss those days.
I would read the Black's Law Dictionary 3 fucking times on my fucking summer break if I was gonna get a goddamn
Do you know
Miss
free
Pac-Man
pizza?
round. And
This
a
is
fucking
yeah,
free
no
pizza?
shit. If I could still get a personal pan pizza for reading, I would read so many more books. That's just yeah, dude. I would. That was the best, dude. You get the fucking book it like free personal pan pizza, and then your parents have to take you to fucking Pizza Hut now, and that was back in the day when Pizza Hut fucking ruled.
Yeah, and Fern Gully where you fell in the axe. Talking about kids' horror. Not Fern Gully, where the red fern grows.
Oh, where the red fern grows.
Where the kid falls on the axe and eviscerates himself.
Yeah,
in the
that's
same
right.
vein, think of all
I
these
read that in 5th fucking
all the
grade.
books.
Same.
Think of all the books that you read as a kid that were like, what the fuck am I reading? Do you remember Island of the Blue Dolphins? One of the saddest goddamn stories ever written. Is horrifying. This woman's little brother gets eaten by fucking dogs. Her people are all
Indigenous woman
massacred.
is just R-worded.
It's horrifying. The whole
Sexually
like-
sexually assaulted.
Again, I had to do a book report on that in 5th grade.
What was the one? Oh my god, I can't think of the name of the fucking the name of the book with all the kids on the island with Piggy and the
Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies.
Nuts
yes.
to your Asmar. Yeah.
Yeah. That was. I mean, these are all fucking like fucking just start killing off kids like brutally.
I just realized that I made a reference to that book. I said nuts to your Asmar. Does anybody get that one?
No, I didn't
Yes.
even
there's-
hear it.
There's a bit in that is like one of like any the class is reading Lord of the Flies together. Every kid's like, the fuck does this mean? But the one Piggy says like, I've got Asmar, and somebody says nuts to your Asmar, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And then you realize they're British. It says Asma.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've got asthma.
Nuts to your
Nuts to your
asthma.
asthma.
So nuts to your Asmar is one of my favorite
Nuts to
literary
your
reference.
Jesus Christ.
Nuts to your Asmar.
But I mean, so this is all.
Listen, I was introduced to Ayn Rand in 7th grade.
That
Gross.
tracks. That tracks.
So this is all okay. So now we have sort of gotten through all the history, the 80s, the lead up to what I would call the kids horror boom of the 1990s. The absolute pinnacle of gateway fucking horror for children.
The 1990s.
The 1990s, yeah. So we have in the 90s, we've got, you know, Goosebumps. We've got, this is just television shows. I mean, we're not even we've got Erie, Indiana.
My
We've got Real Monsters, which wasn't necessarily
Nickelodeon, but
scary,
still
but I mean, it was
monster
like
shit.
it was
Ren and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy was that 90s?
Yeah.
That was
Absolutely.
I feel like that's
I
that was
think
90s.
it's
That
90s,
was
That
90s.
was 90s.
You're right,
That was
you're
90s.
right, you're
And the
right.
Space Madness episode.
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah.
Yeah, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Is legendary.
Submitted
You know,
for
Erie,
the
Indiana.
approval of the Midnight Society.
Tales
Yeah,
from
Rod Serling.
How about Tales from the Crypt Keeper, the kids' version of Tales from the
Oh,
Crypt?
yeah.
Like we've got
Which is
Maybe.
rough because when I was a kid, the Tales from the Crypt series on HBO was the scariest shit. I've never been scared of like any movies ever, but Tales from the Crypt always got me.
really.
Okay, so
Dude,
Tales from the Crypt.
There's fucking one starring Gina Davis where she's trapped in some weird town, and it's one of those like Twilight Zone-esque, like the train's left me here and I can't seem to get out. But like she's on trial for something, she doesn't know what it is, which is obviously like
It's
a
a
fucking
Kafka reference.
obviously a Kafka reference, and she doesn't know what it is, and she gets found innocent. And then they're gonna put her in the electric chair anyway, and John Leguizamo's her fucking lawyer. And he's like,
That's the
and he's
horror
like,
element.
you gotta.
John Leguizamo.
He's like, yeah, here you go. Here's your way.
Young
Here's
John
your
Leguizamo.
way out of town right here. And she's like, I'm not gonna get in that. And he goes, well, do you mind then? And he jumps in, electrocutes himself, and she's trapped in this
Okay,
hellscape.
well, so there's a
Jesus
happy
Christ.
ending.
This
I
was
wish he would
fucking
have stayed
nightmare
dead.
fuel.
No,
Like
no,
the Tales
no.
from the Crypt. The whole thing is the
The
endings
real
were
horror is that
always
John
bleak.
Leguizamo still had a career after that. He should have stayed dead.
Stupid.
I'm a big Leguizamo fan, so I
You know what?
protest.
So am I.
Yeah.
Fucking, it's a joke. Did you let it?
Jokes have to be funny, Brian.
Well, don't kill
That
it.
is the thing about jokes.
Yeah, it's not funny if you don't kill it.
That is the thing about jokes.
But like yeah, the Tales from the Crypts, man. The endings were always bleak. That's the, like fucking. I hate that. I hate that to this day. If I watch a movie
No.
and like there's somebody who's
Except
like
for-
getting away from the killer, and
My-
then right at the end is like stab. I'm like, fuck that. I hate it.
Ultimate favorite Tales from the Crypt. Guys get into a gambling a war, and one of them is like, "No, let's do some real shit. Like, I got a gun out in my car right now. Let's go get it. Let's go Russian roulette." And it's really intense, and it's like weird, and it's got that like Tales from the Crypt, greasy, easy, funny, like cringy. But it's really intense as they go down the chamber and take turns, and they're like each one has a monologue about it, and it gets down to the bottom of the thing, like, and it's like, all right, you got one left, right? You gotta go. It's not like there's one left and we know it's it that we want. No, you're gonna die now. Click. And it's like, oh, I knew there was a ringer. You fucking set this all up. I didn't just want a sure fucking thing. You didn't really want to fucking play this game. So then they go to play chop poker, where if you lose the hand, there's a guy on one, you fucking
Take your
chop
finger,
their
yeah.
fingers off, and they fucking chop each other's fingers off. By the end of it, they've got no arms, no legs. They're a mental institution, and they're using their noses to push the fucking chess pieces. At the end, they're like bitching about how they're cheating, and they move in, and it's like they're in for a kiss, and the whole thing was that they were gay the whole time.
What?
Dude,
What I
it's
don't.
one of the funniest fucking things I've ever seen. Is literally like there's nothing scary about this. Like these are just two gay dudes that just maybe probably just should get out of the closet.
What?
Yeah, I'm telling you. It's
Have we been
it's
talking
fun.
about Tales from the Crypt this whole time
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
kids horror episode?
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, but I'm just only saying that because when
Which,
I was
again,
a kid,
is a
when
kid's-
I was a
it's a
kid,
kid's
I
show.
watched
Tales from the Crypt.
Tales from the Crypt wasn't.
No,
Yes.
Tales from the Crypt is serious as fuck.
Tales
but
from
like
the Crypt
I was
wasn't.
one of those kids that would like have access to that shit.
Yeah, Tales from the Crypt was on late night. That was not, again, just because you watched it as a kid, which I did as well, doesn't mean that it was catered to or marketed. It was gray area there on the marketed to.
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah,
they
yeah.
definitely made it where
It's
kids
funny.
would-
You got
yeah.
this funny animatronic
kids would
puppet
naturally
guy.
be
He's
like,
cute.
"Ooh, I want to watch that," and then watch it and be
Oh,
scared.
hey, kitties.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Well, they said kitties. Well, they meant the adults in the
Yeah.
room.
Well, I think it was
I mean,
just
come on, it's
supposed to
from
be
East.
punny.
No, it's not.
Boys and ghouls.
This is pre-code stuff. Why did
not
they
once.
put?
Not once it was in.
Why did they put the code on it?
We're talking
Because
about
kids shouldn't
the
watch this, but it was marketed to kids.
we're
It's just
talking-
like Camel cigarettes, man.
pre-code is comic books. We're talking about the series
Yeah,
on TV.
that came from what? Pre-code comic.
Yes, a 60-year-old comic book.
And the story that I'm talking about is directly pulled from those pages.
Well, anyway, we've got the 90s now, which, I mean...
Horrifying decade.
We all grew up watching this fucking wild-ass shit, the Goosebumps. I mean, reading Goosebumps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's bizarre that 150 Goosebumps books are just readily available.
Dude, and I remember coming home with those
Night of the Living Dummy, come on.
I remember coming home with that waxy fold over fucking Scholastic. You know, you could look at all the different books that they would sell, and and then begging my parents for, because they were all like, you know, we didn't grow up particularly fucking with a ton of money for frivolous shit,
Like
and so
books.
most of my books came from the secondhand fucking bookstore, you know, or like, you know, if my mom got a wild hair up her ass, she'd be like, "Oh, read this," and she'd bring home fucking like White Fang or some shit that I'm like, why?
One
I don't
time, my
wanna
mom brought an
like,
entire.
Let me pick my own books, lady.
My mom brought me an entire garbage bag full of books with all the covers ripped off because the thrift store wouldn't accept them. Like somebody had given the thrift store like this bag of fucking random books with all the covers ripped off, but you can't sell those.
Right.
It's like a whole thing because that's, you know, theft or branding or something. So I got this fucking gigantic book of heavily inappropriate horror books.
But I mean, so I remember just like begging, and you'd always come home. You'd always buy at least one Goosebumps book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you'd buy the one with the weirdest fucking cover.
What's your favorite Goosebumps cover?
I can't remember. I'll be
You
honest
lost
with
me
you.
on all of this one.
I can't remember.
didn't like.
You never read the Goosebumps?
Listen, I sat on the couch and I watched fucking Creature Double Feature with my grandmother and laughed at horror movies since I was like 8 years old.
I read every Goosebumps.
Goosebumps was like,
I feel like you're
Oh my God!
exaggerating.
You're
Every
saying,
Goosebumps.
you're saying you were a pretentious child?
Yeah, he didn't even wait till adulthood.
You were like, no, I'm too elevated.
dude, I met
to
you when I was
read the
12.
Books?
You have a lot of nerve. No, I didn't, because I was, first of all, you were
exactly
like
what
10 years younger than me.
I'm
so,
36.
yeah, I'm 43.
Yeah,
7
that's not
years,
10
7
years.
Yeah, well, it's close enough that fucking R.L. Stein had you fucking excited for your book fair, and
read
my
all of
shit
them.
had already watched fucking Basket Case and laughed about
I'm
it.
the same age. I read some Goosebumps. I didn't read all of the Goosebumps. That's
My
just absurd.
favorite Goosebumps.
I didn't like any of the Goosebumps.
My favorite
I didn't
Goosebumps by far
My sister liked Goosebumps.
is
She's
the
4
one-
years younger than me.
My favorite Goosebumps by far is the one where the kid goes to like the comic book world and a bunch of weird comic book shit happens. And then he finally, this is Parker recognition? Then he finally gets out and he's like, well, glad I escaped from comic book world. And then he fucking like cuts his finger and he bleeds ink. And
Hey.
that's probably the darkest ending to a Goosebumps story.
It's Big Bad Beetleborgs. Fuck you, R.L. Stein.
What?
It's Big Bad Beetleborgs.
What do you mean?
That's
Did you say
ripped-
that like I'm supposed to know what that
It's
means?
ripped from Beetleborgs.
Do you think that R.L. Stein watched an episode of Beetleborgs and then wrote a book
Yes,
based on that
I
experience?
do, because that's what R.L. Stein did. He's a fucking hack.
He is a hack. I will say that.
Beetleborgs.
To go back,
Because
actually,
the bad guy in Beetleborgs was a comic book. We had a comic book writer as a slave,
Mm-hmm.
and he could bring the comic guys to life. That was the whole fucking premise of Beetleborgs.
that was the whole premise of Beetleborgs?
Yeah, and hosted by Jay Leno.
Jesus.
Just,
Hey, Big Bad Beetleborgs.
you know the guy I'm talking about, the big blue guy, the guy with the big
Fucking
You know what I'm saying?
asshole.
They call him Mac the Knife.
Oh my god.
He looks like
Big Bad Beetleborgs.
The guy looked like the fucking McDonald's commercial.
I don't remember any of what you guys are talking about.
To go back to where I was talking about R.L. Stein closer to the beginning of the episode, I took his master class, right?
Okay,
And,
yeah.
God, this guy is such a dweeb. And mind you, I've read like a lot of his shit, and a lot of it, he has this like theory where it's like you can write the same exact book essentially for 4 different ages. You know, you can write a little kid version, then you can write like the elementary into middle school Goosebumps level, and then you can do like the Fear Street, which is the same thing except including like blood and violence, right? And then
Okay.
he does one more that's called like Scary Point or some shit.
Jesus
He's got
Christ.
he's got this great like fear word plus location. You know, Camp Blood.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you know,
Murder Bluff.
Yeah, the fucking creepy coast. But you know, you get the
Circumcision Mountain.
you get to the top tier, and it's essentially you could have the violence and the blood, but like you also might mention boobs or something. But he in his like
I think I broke Brian.
I will reveal R.L. Stein's fucking methodology right here from the masterclass. I paid for this. Okay.
Good for you.
Actually, my wife paid for it, but it was a wonderful gift.
She should file divorce.
There was some other good stuff on there. I got Mammoth. A Mammoth class was good.
Okay.
Just him talking about how great he was for 16.
Better than
videos.
R.L. Stein.
I
for
remember
sure.
this Riley
Yeah, it was
era.
good.
I was very,
It was good. It was good stuff.
Very nice.
But the R.L. Stein one, he says, and I'm going to do an impersonation here. He says, "People have always wondered where I get my names for things."
Is that what he sounds like?
Yes.
Weird.
People have always wondered
That tracks.
where I get my names for things. For instance, I had one book. It was called Mostly Ghostly. So one day I was at the Walmart and I was walking through their Halloween section and there was a sign there and it said Mostly Ghostly. And I thought, what a great name for a book.
Oh my God.
And that is a fucking true anecdote on methodology from R.L. Stein.
And that is a master class in
That's a
horror
master
because I am
class.
fucking horrified.
I just had to reset my brain. I'm sorry.
That
was bad.
You
I
know what?
listened to all like 4 hours or something of his
That's-
material, and it
was
was all like, sometimes I'll go for a walk with my wife, and I'll just think, what if I killed her?
The mind of a psychopath. Jesus Christ. Just the master
Do
class.
it, pussy.
The master class also doubles as fucking confession tapes when that crime inevitably happens.
No, he's doing that speech at Flagler College like next month, and
I
people
would
are gonna
totally go.
And I'm gonna hear everybody like, he was such an inspiration. What a wonderful thing to hear from. And I'll be like, dude, that guy probably rambled about fucking wingtip shoes for
Everybody
45
goes, oh my God, like, I'm so inspired. The best thing I ever fucking heard from any one of those things was just be allowed to write, allow yourself to write badly.
Yeah, he's the
In
best.
perpetuity.
Who was that? Who said that?
R.L. Stein.
No, it wasn't R.L. Stein. I can't remember the guy's name. Allow yourself to write
I do
porn
remember that. I do
in
remember
perpetuity.
that. Or I remember somebody saying
And
something
I go,
like that.
great, because I don't write well. It's the best. After fucking like 20 hours of listening to shit like R.L. Stein, being like, I was in the Walmart department thinking about maybe I should warn my wife. Maybe I was gay. That sounds like a
Fascinating.
great story.
I also suck at writing. So.
How do I write a story about how I want to murder my wife and I might be closet homosexual in 4 levels?
So that brings me to probably the mecca of what I feel like a lot of our, at least a large portion of what our experience in as 90s kids was in the kids horror genre, which is Nickelodeon's Are You Afraid of the Fucking Dark?
The legendary
Are You Afraid of the Dark, which I haven't watched in a very long time, since whenever the hell that show was on, probably.
I don't think I've watched a full episode of it in like 20 years.
Yeah.
Recently,
Well, I have.
very recently, I did have like a recessed memory from this show pop up. Like I was on social media and somebody posted a thing that was like, has anybody else had this in the back of their head for fucking 30 years? Mm-hmm. And it was a little kid ghost with just his face painted to be white, like a ghost. He's wearing like white shirt and pants, just standing in the woods going, I'm cold. And I was like, holy fuck, that has been in my goddamn head for 30 years. I like immediately, because it was just a picture with the words under it, and I heard it in my ear. Like, I was like, holy fuck.
That's funny. I don't remember any specific episodes. The only thing I remember is, all the kids gathering around the fucking fire, and they had the little pouch of glitter or whatever the hell it was, where they would do the, they'd sort of start talking about something, and then every week it was like a different
Who's
kid.
got a story?
Yeah, it was a
I've
different
got
kid
one for
telling
you.
the story, and then they'd reach into the bag and do the whole like
Coffee mate.
yeah, the Twilight Zone.
Coffee mate.
Coffee mate. Yeah,
Is that what they did?
it's coffee creamer. Yeah,
Is
that's
it really?
Yep,
That's
coffee
great.
mate.
They did the whole, and then they would do the Twilight Zone ripoff, that's submitted for your approval, and then say the
And then
name.
they come
and
up
then,
from
like,
the fire
Midnight
and then
Society.
yeah, the Midnight Society.
And it would
Yeah,
be something like The Night Shift, which I just actually rewatched
Yeah?
the other night.
How was that?
12-year-old nurse.
A 12-year-old nurse.
Yeah. She's 12, 14 years old. She's a nurse.
Okay,
Actually working
Good
the
for
night
her.
shift.
I mean,
Okay.
that's getting
No.
it at a young age. That's,
Dude, that
that's
is
called
so,
hustle.
That is some real Are You Afraid of the Dark
Nick,
shit.
Nick.
That's
Dude was touching kids. Remember, isn't that,
Who?
what was the
What?
name of the? There's a whole big thing with the guy that was like producing a lot of these Nickelodeon shows.
Yeah, did you not hear
that's
about that?
He's in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
feet
yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
No, so he's got these kids.
Talk about some kid horror.
Oh my god. Oh, I hate that.
So
Alright.
so it's these kids.
Really put
So
a damper
all
on the
the
thing.
all the main characters are played by kids, and then there are these supporting roles like the nurse that is the charge nurse is like some like trunchbull fucking like actual adult,
Uh-huh.
and then like the person that's in charge of maintenance
You just
is an
turned
adult.
You just
Right.
turned
But-
Miss Trunchbull from fucking
From Matilda, yeah.
Matilda into an
I mean,
adjective.
If you
Trunchbully.
you absolutely
Recognize it right away.
No, I'm with him.
For
Like,
sure.
because I totally
For sure.
forgot that they age-sized
Yeah, and then
the
so
main
like,
character.
So like the girl's boyfriend's pretending to be sick and like in a hospital bed so that they can kind of like, I don't know, I guess have some private time together. The night shift in the hospital at 14 years old.
What?
But they're not 14. They're only they're obviously kids, but they're doing adult things. That's already fucking on its face tacitly goddamn weird.
Okay.
The whole mechanism, the whole presentation is a little
Well, I get
like offsetting and cringy in that way.
I get
You
making
would
the
see
I get
it,
making the actors, kids
but
kids
not all
that are the
actors,
same
but
age
not
as the
all the actors.
right. But
It's
but
like,
because it's
And they're
supposed to
doing
be
adult things like adult things like pretending to be sick so that we can have nookie time in the hospital on the night shift.
Is it like if you had like a community theater that was just like youth theater, so you got like the kid doing like Death of a
Doing like
Salesman,
prisoner of 42nd Street.
and like
Yeah.
I gotta
Yeah, it's a Neil Simon play, but they're all fucking 8 years old.
little kids just like, damn it, you won't even look at me anymore, Larry. He's like, I'm telling you, I got pressure at work.
I get making the actors kids from the perspective that you're telling a story and
But
it's supposed to
they're
be
not all
in your
but
imagination.
no,
I
no.
think that you right, I see what you're saying, but I think that you maybe stop when it comes time to I don't know, have the 14-year-old nurse like raid the medical closet for fucking
For
No, I
fucking-
forgot that episode.
for
The episode
opioids?
where
Listen, because the problem comes, in my mind anyway, from the fact that there are still these administrative roles that are played by adults, even though they are adult roles as children, and it's of the dichotomy is very strange.
I guess that's just because
That's weird.
kids want to watch kids, right? Like, if you're young,
Right,
you
but then
wanna
so
watch...
why don't have them all be kids?
Because that's not realistic, Brian. No one's
You're
gonna
gonna get
believe.
us in trouble.
No
You're
one is
gonna get
going
us
to
in
believe.
trouble pretending to be sick just to get some alone time with me. Well, you won't go on a date with me because you
No
don't know
one
how
is
to
going.
schedule.
No one is going to believe that a 13-year-old is a hospital administrator.
14-year-old
Okay, that's ridiculous.
No 14-year-old is talking to her boyfriend about how she's got scheduling issues and they can't go out to dinner. Okay, go fuck yourself. Well,
I can't. I've
listen,
got clinicals tomorrow.
And remember, this is. Think about the fucking structure of this show.
You know that
okay?
I have to study
No,
for my state
no.
certification.
Think about the structure of this show. They all sit on these couches that they pulled into the woods.
Are they on
with
couches?
Couches and chairs. They're
Oh,
on like dirty.
in my mind they were on logs and stuff.
No, they pull fucking They pull furniture into the woods. They have fire, and they fucking tell each other stories. There are no adults around, and they are fucking LARPing these horror stories from adult perspectives. And then when it goes the dream sequence, they're the adults, but then there are still adults
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
above
in,
them.
it's in their kid's
weird.
head.
It is kind of stupid. I'm not going to say it's not stupid. I'm saying that if you're going to do that, if you're going to use that as your mechanism,
So you've got
then maybe don't have the adult themes
So
included.
the horrible thing here is not that, oh my God, it's actually a vampire on the late shift. It's that these children are like fantasizing on couches around a fire with no adult supervision, being adults and
being
trying to
horrified
get
and
like
Jesus Christ.
personal time together to do like what a man and a woman would do in a man and a woman role with like these other adults above them trying to catch them.
Brian-
and then there's a vampire.
Brian, do you remember?
It's fucking gross. It's gross.
Do you remember when we got when my family got we got the first computer in the house,
And there was a vampire in it.
and it came with this. It came with
Ooh,
this
spooky.
stupid asshole.
Yeah, I remember that.
The time traveling.
This
got
apple
better.
bites back.
Dude.
So
fucking
stupid.
MS-DOS.
No, there was a disc. There was a disc with.
MS-DOS.
There was a disc with random games in it, and one of the games was "Are You Afraid of the Dark?" And this is in 1990. Did I just unlock some shit in your brain?
Oh my fucking God,
Did I
dude.
just
You
unlock
have
it?
just fucking unlocked core memory. What the fuck?
And us playing that
That's
shit.
what I was looking
and
for.
it was like a first-person game. It was for fucking Windows 95. It was a first-person fucking game. You had to put the disc in, and it was "Are You Afraid of the Dark?" And it was like a puzzle game, but it was all first-person. And this shit was legitimately terrifying because it was like early first-person games, and like you would hear and turn around, and there'd be a fucking skeleton man running down. You'd be in a narrow hallway, and this thing would just be charging at you, and it was like, oh my God, it would fucking
Jesus
flip out.
Christ.
Yeah, dude. Are You Afraid of the Dark? I would love to find that fucking CD-ROM somewhere, and then also a computer that has a disc drive in it still.
You know
Yeah,
something I
whatever
forgot? I'm sorry.
No,
Just
you go ahead.
looking at it. Something that they would do is fit Nickelodeon celebrity kids into these sometimes.
Yeah.
You get,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Tia and
For sure.
Tamara had one.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like Nev Campbell was on one of these episodes.
Yeah.
Tia and Tamara, I think, were in the.
It'd be like
the
somebody's
late shift,
cousin. Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
It'd be somebody's cousin that was visiting town. It's like, oh, I brought my cousin. They're twins. And
Yeah,
it's Tia and Tamara.
Melissa Joan Hart.
Oh, Jesus. Clarissa?
Yeah.
Did she explain?
Something,
Never
I'm
mind.
sure.
That's such an easy, stupid joke. I'm
Hasn't
not
she
going to
been
make
in
it.
fucking Evidence That Demands a Verdict, like fucking Christian movies? You're
Yeah,
talking
she's
about
been in stuff like that.
Speaking
Is
of
she one of those now?
Kids horror.
I think so, yeah.
It's like fucking
But yeah,
Christian.
people from Boy Meets World and shit would pop up on here, just random pseudo '90s
Yeah,
sitcom
yeah.
celebrities.
The other one that I remember was the Zombie Dice.
Dun dun dun.
This is an Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah,
Episode?
yeah, and this kid is fucking playing 3-card Monty in the halls of fucking high school, and it's busting. There's the guy in his couch who's like, "Yeah, fuck you, kid. I'm busting." and so
Were they trying to paint it like he's headed to a dark place? He's playing
Yeah, but
fucking
I mean, he's
gin
like-
rummy with his grandma.
motherfucker doesn't even know what a double lift is, and he's like fucking he's like, oh hey, he points at a card and he flips the other card over. He's like, oh, you're wrong, and you're like, what?
I don't even know what a
How
double
stupid
lift
are the
is.
kids in your fucking high school? They're like, I want to see the one on the left. No, here's the one in the middle. That's not your card. Go away. Give me your money. And
How
that's
dumb are the kids in this high school? They can't
Yeah.
play 3-card Monty.
No shit. They can't lose a 3-card Monty.
They're just letting this kid swindle the
And then
shit
so
out of him.
so then he ends up in this weird sausage castle style fucking weird game place where this dude with he looks like a Dick Tracy character, with his string bean mouth, his fucking how he smiles is weird, and he gets the guy to fucking play zombie dice with him, right? You fucking roll the dice 3 times. There's skulls on one side, and as long as no skull comes up, then you can have my bar.
Mm-hmm.
But if one skull rolls up, then I get your thumbprint. And
It's
the
your
reveal is
thumbprint.
like, yeah, well, it's, back in the day, the thumbprint means that I own you as a person. And then it was like basically you put your thumbprint in a machine that would shrink them down, and it was like a child trafficking.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Didn't
He's
see that coming.
As pets.
See, throw them into like one of those little bubbles, like homies.
Go into a fucking cage. And like a cage is like, I've got people who pay high top dollar for pets as exotic as this. And it literally was
That's
like
the Twilight Zone, yeah.
Gross.
People are the same everywhere. Yeah, Roddy
Yeah.
Patel. Yeah. I was always I always liked Are You Afraid of the Dark? I always preferred Erie, Indiana. Because Erie, Indiana has one of the most fucking weirdest cohesive stories you ever read. We talked about this on the horror
Briefly, yeah.
This guy named Omri Katz plays a character named Marshall that moves to a town. He's only like probably 12 or 13.
But
in the
Erie,
show.
Indiana, I think it was only like one season, right? They
It's
only
the
had, like,
2
one
seasons.
season? Was it 2?
Yeah, but
And it
was
starts
dope,
to lose the thread a little bit towards the end of that second season, but like in a way where things start getting more expansive.
Mm-hmm.
Like they do an episode where Marshall wakes up and he's on the set of his show, and everyone's like, "Hey, Omri, how are you doing?" He's like, "Who the fuck is Omri?"
And in case I don't see it, good morning, good evening.
There's a
good night.
character on there who's a kid like. Who's like 12 years old, who's like a homeless kid with crazy shock white hair. With his fucking, there was like a plus and a minus tattooed on his hand, and he had no idea what his backstory was. And he would just be around. He was kind of a dick. John Aston, Gomez Adams ran like the convenience store in the area.
Oh, Jesus.
I wish that he would have done a Law and Order.
John Aston, that would have been fun. As Gomez Adams.
Morticia gets found in a fucking alleyway somewhere.
God, not like, no, he would have
No,
been the
no,
detective.
just completely free from the canon of Adam's Family, but the same character.
Just the, I mean, I'm sure
Chung
that
chung.
he just had like a
He's just
cigar
like
around.
he's the detective from Interpol that's coming.
No. He's
'cause
like
there's
he's being investigated. Like he's being
he's
Now, there are
a criminal.
in the interrogation
There's
room.
some definite
He's
discrepancies.
indignant. It's not him. It's the false.
Where
lead
did you
at
get
the
all these
beginning of the show.
artifacts? And what are these doubloons? So John Aston is in the show. Very fucking cool, just like appearance thing. But just to give you like a tenor of what this show is about, Erie, Indiana. The disclaimer is that it's the center of weirdness for the planet.
Yeah.
Right. Marshall's next door neighbors are these two twin boys. They're his age, 12, 13, going into high school or whatever. And they're very weird, very 50s. Their mom is a very like 50s, kind of like poodle skirt. And like, hey, boys.
Okay.
Avon calling, that kind of.
All right.
Yeah, Donna Reed.
Right. Yeah, very Donna Reed, and she sells Tupperware. That's her whole thing. And they discover
Very
over the course of the
50s.
episode that every night she seals the kids in Tupperware. They're actually like 55 years old.
They're fresh sealed.
That they haven't aged because they're sealed in Tupperware.
Because that Tupperware really works.
Right. My favorite episode of that show, and I
hear
think
that pop?
about this shit all the time. So Marshall is he's a little punk rocker, he wears like an army jacket, he's got like cool necklace. He's like very
Yeah,
90s
sure,
style,
sure.
sort of like grunge rebel guy.
Right.
He is protesting against daylight savings time. So he refuses to set his clock back.
That's relatable.
Right? He's just like, I'm not doing it. I'll go to school an
That
hour
is
later and they can
fucking
fuck
correct,
themselves, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't set his clock back an hour, goes to sleep, and he wakes up. He is an hour removed from the rest of society. Everyone in town is gone. It's just him because he's living an hour behind everyone else. And this is the episode that really like got me because the only person that he sees there's like a milkman. There's like an old man who drives his milk
So the
truck
whole
around.
world moves in this
Moves
sort
on
of linear fashion along with
it's like
people.
the Langoliers, like Stephen King.
Right,
yeah.
but the milk truck is like the photon of light that exists.
Yeah, the
It's outside
old
speed of
man
sound.
drives around. He's like,
He's like, hey, what are you doing here, kid?
It's just on an
It's not your
infinite
time
loop.
to get ice cream
the-
yet.
the
Just
old-
on an
the
infinite
old
loop. It just
Otter
keeps coming
Pop,
back.
right? Yeah, I'll
the
see
old
you in about an hour.
the old milkman's just like, you shouldn't be here, kid. We gotta get you. We gotta get you out of here. Yeah. And so like he hooks him up with like some girl who'd been trapped there since like last season. She's been living in this
Since the last daylight saving.
exactly. So she's been stuck in this time, and I can't remember the exact situation that gets them out of there. But like right
That
at,
is such
at the
a
end,
fucking brilliant goddamn premise.
so good. But like
It's
he's
so
at the
good.
end, Marshall's talking to And Marshall's like a paranormal detective. He's kind of like a kid's X-Files guy.
Right,
you know?
right.
He's
It's like an
Well, yeah,
encyclopedia.
it was the whole show was like a kid's
He's
X-Files.
dead. He's dead.
He's like an Encyclopedia Brown for
from
fucking
his
weird shit.
Invader
Yeah.
Zim. He's dead.
But he's talking to the milkman, and the milkman's like, we gotta fucking put you in this area at this time to get you back to where you're from. And Marshall's like, dude, how do you know all this? How do you know so much about me? And the guy reaches into his shirt and pulls out the same necklace that's like a key that Marshall's wearing.
Mm-hmm.
He pulls out the same necklace. He goes, you'll find out one day. And then he fucking gets
And
him
then
out
the
of
show was
there.
canceled.
And then the show was canceled. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
But-
I would have canceled that show right there. Too.
But I just,
You know,
I
you
just
guys are
loved
done,
the
man.
like.
You were
this
almost, you
fucking-
almost had it. You were
You'll
so
be a
close.
crazy old milkman trapped
You
in
were
time
so
one day.
close.
I thought it was great.
But I love the idea of like the photon of light being the milkman. It's just, you know, every time I fucking turn the light on, I'm hearing bling, 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 bling,
Well, that's how he
bling,
gets
bling,
to-
bling, 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 bling,
That's how he gets to
bling,
nail
bling,
so
bling.
many single moms. You know, that's why he's got kids
The
all over.
milkman always rings twice.
The ice cream man always
Has drugs. That's the
comes twice.
that's the Jesus
What?
Christ. He said comes twice.
The ice cream man comes twice.
So
That's the
stupid.
name of my new novel.
Classic cult
That's,
film. Ice cream man always comes twice.
It'll be out. I'm writing it now.
Though I guess that really is the concept of the movie. The postman always rings twice, so that the wife knows that it's the postman, so she can let him in.
Mm.
Il Postino.
What is the postman or the milkman?
In the real movie, is the postman always rings
Oh,
twice?
okay. I got you.
Because she's fucking the milkman. No,
no,
the
I got
postman.
it. I got it.
The postman. She's fucking the postman. Not
The
Kevin
milkman. The
Costner.
milkman is watching through the window.
What's the ice cream man doing?
But not Kevin Costner's the
coming twice.
postman.
So all right.
Existing outside of time.
Real quick, I just want to before we wrap this up, I want to talk about some books and movies that didn't get mentioned, but that were 90s books. My Teacher is an Alien. Do you guys remember that
Fuck
one?
yeah, Bruce Cobble.
Yeah.
Bruce Cobble's a friend of
Actually,
mine.
fucking
Really?
Do you not know this?
No, I
Dude.
didn't know that.
Dude,
that book is brilliant.
Bruce Cobble's entire run of books were my absolute favorite books growing up. And a few years ago, probably like 5-6 years ago, I reached out to him on his official website because I couldn't find a way to like send him an email. So I just reached out to his website and I was just like, hey man, I just want you to know that like you're like a hero to me and that, you know, I'm literally, it was because I was reading my daughter some of his books, which included like some horror books
Nice.
for kids.
Yeah.
And he responded, we're friends on Facebook.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. He responded, we talk sometimes, we like comment on each other's shit. Bruce Cobble's the fucking man. One of the all-time great kids writers.
But I mean,
Yep.
and back then we had so many like anthology books of like, you know, Frights to Tell at Night. We had the fucking Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. We had
Scary stories you've ever heard.
Yeah.
Well,
I
Bruce
mean, just
Cobble,
so many.
He organized different anthologies with different kids writers for stuff like that too. He did Bruce Cobble's Book of Nightmares, Book of Monsters, Book of Aliens, Book of Ghosts. What's this one right here? Yeah, fucking Nightmares is really cool. Mysteries, Spine Tinglers, like all these
Spine Tingles,
collections.
dude, I forgot all about
But
that.
more than that, he also wrote a series, and I really fucking like this one. I think it was like the Ghost in the
Shell.
Ghost in the.
say
He
the
wrote the
same thing.
Ghost in the Shell movies. I loved all of his collections. Like I read all of these fucking things, and I was just like such a huge fan, including like Jeremy Thatcher, Dragon Hatcher, and all this other shit that he wrote. But he did a series that was called.
What was
Yeah,
the
God fuck me. I remember reading that.
Hey, God, fuck me.
what was
God fucked me too. I'm right there
Jesus,
with you,
what
buddy.
was the Boxcar Children?
Boxcar Children was just another like it was-
Hardy Boys.
It was the
Those are
tenacity of the homeless. It was about like a group of like siblings that found themselves in an unfortunate situation.
Didn't they like solve like scary mysteries too, or was that?
They did solve mysteries. It wasn't like scary mysteries though.
Okay, all right.
They were just like mysteries. Okay, so Bruce Cobble wrote The Ghost in the Third Row, which was like a mystery where like, you know, these high school girls were in a play and keep seeing a ghost in the auditorium and solve the murder. He did another one with the same characters called The Ghost Wore Gray, in which they're worrying about like a fucking Civil War ghost in this big house, and then it leads to like some like big revelation about like fucking like this soldier getting murdered in this house. Fucking dark, but it was cool.
Yeah.
Bruce Cobble rules.
Well, and then we also had shit. Was going back to movies. We had the Child's Play movies, and we had fucking Gremlins 2. We had Candyman.
What about the gate? What about the gate?
Ooh, the gate's good.
Yo, the gate was fucking
Gate's with Steven Dorff.
amazing, dude.
Yeah, it's just
Steven
cool.
Dorff. Yeah, they play the record backwards. There's that scene where the girl's like holding the dog and it's like bloodied and dead and like fucking flies all around it. And I'm like, this is, for all intents and purposes, it's like claymation, like weird fucking.
Yeah, and
imps.
that is a movie about
then-
like
and
little
then
kids
that's-
doing like horror shit.
Dude,
Yeah.
and it's for kids, but dude,
I mean, which you also had The Shining.
my
Was in the 90s?
children
Yeah.
clapped at the end of Alien. Okay, my kids were like, I don't want to sleep alone after they watched half of the movie.
Yeah, the gate's fucked. The gate's fucked, man.
The Shining was in the 90s. Arbitrarily kind of scary for the time, like certain sequences. I mean, it was goofy for most of it, but I mean, there were a couple fucking real dark sequences. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, particularly scary. Actually, all of Roald Dahl stuff is kind of on the fucked up side, especially for kids.
We've talked
Yeah,
about him.
yeah.
Coraline was in the 90s.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
Neil
which is-
Gaiman. Neil Gaiman's got a bunch of stuff like
Yeah,
that.
so Maddox's mother, her brother-in-law, did Tile. It took him like 8 months to do, and there's a scene in Coraline where it's like lightning backflashes, and it's like slug tracks in like a wheel track in mud, and a tile is like about like fucking like 3x4. And that was his contribution to the movie.
Dude, that's cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, dude, I got to see the fucking thing. I was like, dude, that's dope as shit. You can see where like the fucking slug truck. It was so intricate and so neat, and fucking, but that's just basically just a cartoon being John Malkovich.
Good kids horror movie from the 90s, The Witches.
Donnie,
Yeah,
Angelica
The Witches.
Houston.
Donnie
Yeah,
Darko.
That one's fucked up.
Great
Donnie
children's
Darko.
movie.
Donnie Darko was. I don't think that was for kids.
Debbie Does Dallas.
Jesus.
Or did you ever see The Good Son? Macaulay Culkin
With
and Elijah
Macaulay
Wood.
Culkin, that's right.
Yeah.
If you put kids in the movie, that's kids horror.
Okay, take out the slapstick fucking Three Stooges bullshit and Home Alone.
Horrifying. Kevin McAllister's a psychopath.
No, dude, that's a horror movie. It was
You
terrible.
just take out the soundtrack. Just have the soundtrack. Just cut it out. So there's so many sequences of him just sitting there and staring at nothing.
Jesus Christ. All right. Do
There's,
we want to wrap?
There's
Go ahead.
Ernest Scares Stupid.
Stop.
Ernest P. Worrell.
Yeah. Mother's Miak.
Mother's Miak.
Mother's Miak.
Or if anyone's unfamiliar with Jim Varney's brilliant
Oh my God.
Ernest P.
The man.
Worrell,
The man,
that's how to describe.
the man set a fucking platform for Jim Crow tough jobs. That man wishes he was Jim Varney.
Jim Crow.
Or Mike Rowe.
Mike Rowe.
Mike Rowe.
Not Jim Crow. Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
That's a totally different show.
Riley and I.
That was a totally
I mean, boy,
different show.
let me tell you, Jim Varney
Crow Tough
setting
Jobs.
the platform
Jim
for Jim
Crow
Crow.
Tough
Jim
Jobs.
Crow Tough Jobs is a
talk
different
about
thing.
a time traveling vampire. Am I right?
Jim Crow's Tough Jobs. You got to check it out.
All right,
It's
well,
going to make you feel
with-
uncomfortable.
Now
No.
I definitely want to rap Pat.
With Jim Varney being
Yeah.
a time traveling vampire, I think we can
No,
wrap
no,
it
no,
now.
not Jim Varney, but
You know what I mean,
Mike,
Vern?
Mike Rowe, his whole thing.
Oh, he's just doing
was Jim
Ernest.
Varney.
He's doing Ernest
doing-
P. Worrell, yeah.
No, he's doing Jim Varney. Like have you seen him like QVC and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've watched him do like the fucking.
I have no idea what you're
home
talking about.
So this guy started on like the Home Shopping Network, like QVC.
Jim Varney did.
No, Mike Rowe.
Mike Rowe?
Yeah.
Did he
I
start
thought
by
he
doing
started
like
as like an opera singer.
Yeah.
Listen
no,
here, Vern. You know what I mean, Vern?
He started selling.
You're going to really
things
want this
like-
knife set,
You're really-
Vern.
I would
Dude.
buy that.
I'm fucking telling you right now, it's brilliant.
I will say one more thing about Ernest Scared Stupid.
Retails for $109. It's only $30 here, Vern.
Ernest Scared Stupid is like pinnacle 90s like kid horror stuff
It's silly.
because it
It's super
lurks
silly.
in the back of your fucking mind and you
Dude,
know it does.
I was not ever an Ernest fan, but Mother's Miak, every now and then I wake up and I go, Mother's Miak, and I go, fuck.
I don't know what that is.
It's like a bit.
Yeah, so like basically they're saying like what can kill the aliens is like a mother. It's a thing, and it's missing a letter. It's M blank LK or
Mother's milk.
MI blank K. Mother's what? Because mother's miak. And I have mother's miak right here. And that's the whole fucking
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, horror. Dude, that is the pinnacle.
I'll always love Ernest just because it's the only movie you'll ever see that involves you as a character because you're Vern, and I think that's great.
It's literally hardcore Harry before.
Yeah, exactly. He's just a fucking. Every time he looks in the camera, he's like, "You know what I mean, Vern?" He's
It's
talking
a
to
Disney
you.
ride. It's
Yeah.
a
And
fucking
you're
Disney
Vern.
ride.
It might as well be, yeah.
Okay, and hold on. And that's Lovecraftian. You're Vern. We're all Vern.
That's the existential horror.
Well, with that, I think we could go ahead and wrap it. Thank you guys so much again for listening. And if you like the show, the best way to tell us is to get on whatever you're listening to. Give us 5 stars. Leave us a review. You can also send us a message if you want to. Delete everything podcast@gmail.com. We've got a social media. What do we got? Threads, Facebook,
Gotta move these
Instagram.
microwave ovens.
I think we're going to sell underwear.
Threads, Instagram, Facebook. You can find us at all 3. Delete Everything Podcast. Follow us. Send us a message. Tell us if you want to hear something. Tell us if you, I don't know, if we said something wrong. We don't.
Don't tell us that.
Well, you can. We're just be like, okay, thanks. We're already on to other things, but
It's all my fault. It's fine.
we like engagement. You know, if you want to be like top tier and like the best friend status, we have a Patreon. And that's the best way to donate money to the show. If you like what we do and you want some bonus episodes, we've got some short episodes. We'll be doing some Q&A stuff. We want to do some other cool things with our Patreon. And that just is, that requires money and stuff. So if you want to donate to the show, that's the way to do it. Other than that, I think we can call this one a successful end to a podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Yeah. Thanks to Brian for being here with us. And, we are Brian. We are not Brian. We are Patrick.
We are Brian.
I am Patrick. That's Riley. Jesus Christ. I'm Patrick. That's Riley. Bye.
Bye.
Right.